We play and call it work.
Hey there, Wargamers. Josh, Cullen, and Kyle here from MiniWarGaming.com, here to give you the review of General's Handbook 2017. Super excited for this. Lucky enough to get our hands on this, and we've done a little read-through. This won't be strictly a first impression video, but it'll be kind of close to it.
Yeah, we haven't
been super in-depth. Now, we're going to go over everything in the book in this video. Maybe not in extreme detail. We are going to pick out some of the parts we're more excited about, but the whole review of the book will be in this video. And then we're going to hop into the vault and play one of the scenarios out of the new book. But let's get started. We're going to go cover to cover. Let's crack it right open. And first thing we come across is open play games.
Indeed. Now, looking at open play, it doesn't appear as anything has changed too much from the first incarnation of this book.
Right. I mean, the core concept of what open play is still the same. This is, you know, just kind of play however you want. Put whatever restrictions you want on it, but this is the most flexible way to play.
Yeah, this is more Age of Sigmar near the beginning, before the first General's Handbook came out, without any points, and just kind of the models in which you have, and it's probably the best way for anybody who hasn't ever played to get into this game.
Jump into the game, yeah, get some models on the board, and just start rolling dice. One thing I am kind of excited for that they've added is the open war cards. Similar-ish to what they did with the Warhammer 40k. I think they called them open play cards or something.
Open war?
Open,
which is exactly...
These are open. Was it open war for them too?
I think so.
That's probably what they're doing with it.
So the open war cards, Kyle, if you'd be so kind to go over the 5 different kinds of cards you end up with in the book.
All right, so there's 5 different types you have. The first one is pretty standard, is your deployment. Now you'll find a lot of these are in the book already. They're taken from different scenarios where you have just cut it in half with the 12 inches apart to something that's a little bit funkier, such as, oh, here we go. Having like completely surrounded characters. And
that one's almost the Brazilian flag.
Yeah, pretty much. Like the Eye of Sauron.
Go in there. I don't know why I went pirate, but it happens.
Yar. So yeah, basically the way it works and the way that they're suggesting to use these cards if you buy them is you're going to draw 1 from the deployment stack. You're going to draw 1 from, what's the next one?
The objective cards. So you'll have 1 from these that'll give you an idea of what you have to do. So for example, one of these is like a War of Attrition. Each player adds up the value of the wounds characteristics of all enemy models that their army slays. And basically, if you wipe out the most amount of wound models, you win.
So just your victory objectives, essentially?
Pretty much, yeah. But there's a whole bunch of different ones. Like, it's not just, like, finding objective, taking objectives. There's other little things that actually sound...
There's a pretty substantial little mix of them, yeah. So they can lead to some interesting games. The other one you're supposed to be drawing is, I believe, one of the twist cards.
Yeah, and that's our 3rd deck right here.
That's the interesting one.
Now, I believe these are optional if you want to add the twist into the game, but they do add a bunch of fun and funky little rules, like, what's this one, Dead of Night?
Oh, this one's perfect. Josh, you really need to be
this
using
is
this
the
beast
one,
force.
yeah. This is my destruction. I don't like to be shot at right away one.
It literally says, maximum range of all attacks and spells is limited to 12 inches. Yeah, that's just what his beast claws do.
Absolutely amazing.
See, for me, I really don't like that. One of the aspects I like about this game is shooting, so...
And I like magic.
Yeah. None of that fun shenanigans. Now, there are 2 other types of cards. Or 3, actually.
Just the other 2.
I think the other 2, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got the Rouge. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of these you basically play as something happens.
Well, I think the way that the Rouge cards work is that when the armies are deployed, they're suggesting to count up wounds. And whoever's got the least amount of wounds gets a Rouge card. But can you give us some examples of the different ruses that could be drawn?
Yeah, so the first ruse I've got here is Revenge. So you play this card as soon as your general is slain. For the rest of the battle, you add 1 to all wound rolls for all your models in your army. Ouch.
Yep.
Ooh.
So yeah, these are kept hidden, I believe, from your opponent until until whatever condition to play the card comes up.
You've activated my trap! Ha ha! I stole your joke.
Yeah, you did. It's all good. Then I believe it's... Josh enjoyed that.
A little bit too much. The last one you have is your sudden death victory conditions.
Yep.
And again, the suggestion on this, guys, is that if the enemy army has twice as many wounds, or more than twice as many wounds, I think, you get one of these. And again, it's kept hidden until the effect comes up.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were playing these, you can only achieve a minor victory. Whereas if you don't play your sudden death, you can get a major victory if you're playing it.
Right, but
really
I think that allows you to override all the other objective conditions for the game.
And some of these are the ones you already see in the basically the open play already. So like Blunt, if you play this card, if at least you have slain at least half, rounding up, of the models of your opponent, they had in their army at the start of the battle phase. Oh, I can read well. You immediately
Good thing you're not
battle.
like a teacher or something, right? That'd be embarrassing.
Really embarrassing. None of my students must ever watch this. Or the other one, like Endure. If you have at least one model on the battlefield at the end of the 5th battle round, you win immediately. And that was in the original rules, wasn't it?
I believe so. That was part of the sudden death.
Those were the sudden death ones
Yeah.
that nobody ever seemed to use that often.
Yeah.
No.
So this, again, these are separate from the General's Handbook 2017, but they talk about it in the book here. So what do you guys think about the addition of the cards to the game?
We missed my favorite pile.
Which was what?
What a twist.
No, we already did Twist.
Did
That
we
was
do
the third
Twist?
one we did.
Oh, okay, I'm not...
Twist was the no Shooty the Beast Claw one.
Go hide yourself.
Wait, so where are you even, Cullen?
Certainly not here.
With these cards, the thing I like about it is that it's all suggestion. So I see, even for, like, okay, so I play mostly just match play, or pretty well strictly match play.
I think it's the same for most of us, yeah.
Yep.
And generally everybody does. So would these be useful for you guys, do you think, in a match play game? Could you see yourself bringing these if you play match play?
I see myself using this, especially the deployment objective ones, really easily. Just because it's, instead of going, well, what scenario are we playing today? Roll off for it. You just literally draw 2 cards and saying, here's the objective, or here's the deployment, and here's my objective, here's your objective.
I like it because a lot of the scenarios have a set map with set objectives. This way you can get some of the different deployments with not always the same objective.
Yeah.
So you're not stuck doing the same kind of things over and over again. You can kind of play them differently with, and actually use some of these stranger, more different deployment zones that might be not as easy to set up, but may lead to some fun and crazy nonsense.
You mean Brazil? We could use Brazil.
Now, I have the same kind of thoughts, so I don't think, because we've got new scenarios in the book, and we'll get to them in a little while, guys, but I look at the deployment map cards as well as the objective cards, and you can easily add that in. Like, if I'm playing a match play game, nothing there really throws off the balance of the game enough that I wouldn't use them.
Yep.
Now, I look at, would I use the twist cards? Probably not very often, unless it was a simple, you know what, I've played a bunch of match play basic games, I'm getting a little bit bored. Let's throw one of those in.
Yeah, and I think that would be good to do every once in a while. If you're feeling kind of dry on the same objectives or anything, just throw in a twist and make it a little different. If you want to just try something new, have some fun with your friends, introduce the game to someone who doesn't really know, I think those are fun little flavorful things that can really change the outcome of a game. Of course, it might not be the most balanced, but if you're not necessarily playing for balance, then I think that's something you'd like to do.
That's almost the point. And I look at, we're in a unique position here with MiniWarGaming that we have guests coming in to film against us. We have some repeat guests like Kyle, but then we have a lot of guests that are coming in for the first time. So if you wanted to play a little bit of an oddball game, and you and your guest wanted, myself and like my guest wanted something that it's different, it's a little bit random, but it's still familiar to us both, and it's consistent, that's where the twist cards come in really nicely.
That also really works because we used to run like just a little wargaming club at the schools I used to teach at, and that's great for like if you've been playing, like you said, you've been playing a lot of the same scenarios over and over again, especially if a small player pool, then it does change up the game quite a bit. Because even one little thing of going, oh, for one turn I don't have to take battle shock tests for my guys that normally just run away all the time. Skaven.
Hey!
Handy dandy. Now, as far as the Rouge cards and the Sudden Death cards, these are the ones I see myself using the least. But I think almost when I'm playing a more narrative kind of game, if you guys have watched enough of my other content on the channel, like my Sit and Talks and all that, I'm a big fan of historical games. So I also like when it's a little bit more abstract when it comes to army building. When you're not using points, wounds, or anything else to balance it, you are just trying to create a specific scenario. And I think more of the historical games do that than more of these types of games. But I see those cards being really kind of useful for crafting a certain narrative kind of scenario.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And yeah, it's one of those things that if you knew what the ruse was going to be beforehand, maybe you can plan out a thematic kind of list or armies that would be, you know, because I think one's called Ambush and allows you to ambush, so, you know, you could do something super cool with that.
There's also the idea here that if you were to make like your own narrative campaign, like if you're designing your own scenarios, you could just draw these out and be like, okay, this is something unique.
This is going to be this one,
and this one. So if you're going to build your own custom map or scenario or whatever, that kind of helps out there with some pre-planning.
Right, you know, so whether it's drawing random or you know, the opponent who has the weaker army is getting to pick which one. I think there's a lot of fun options here without going away from the full kind of idea of match play.
Yep.
So I think you can integrate these cards in. I mean, they're designed mostly for open play, but I think you can use them for quite a few different things. What are your guys' opinion? Yay or nay to the open war cards?
I like them. I think any like the more ways we get to play differently, I think that's a good thing. It just means that more people who like to play different ways get their way of playing. And not to mention it's a handy and quick, easy way to, and I'm assuming not relatively too expensive, to change up the way in which your game is already played.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like that is just, it's just so easy at that point. Why not? If it's not that expensive.
I know. That will be one thing that'll determine whether everybody has them or nobody has them.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other suggestions that they bring up in the book too is organizing a open war tournament using the cards, which I think would be pretty cool. Because again, I think it would take some of the pressure off the tournament organizers because it can be tough to write scenarios for a lot of the different Warhammer games. This one allows you for some fun randomness that you're determining on the spot.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it would definitely wouldn't be you wouldn't use these in a super competitive tournament. But if it's, you know, your gaming club that maybe does regular competitive tournaments and maybe wants to throw one that, hey, let's just do one for crazy fun randomness, this is ideal.
So, big fan of that. Anything else you guys got for the basic open play before we move on to the multiplayer stuff?
No, I think that is...
Triumph and Treachery.
This is the part that we get super excited for.
I'm so excited for that.
And again, guys, the part that I like most about this seat isn't as stable as I thought it was, Cullen. I just discovered that.
I didn't build them.
Didn't you? I think you did, actually.
I'm pretty sure you helped.
Not very well. So all this stuff, again, everything we're talking about is optional, and I get excited for a lot of this stuff because I see myself being able to add it into match play games and kind of tweak it a little bit. So we're going to start off Coalition of Death. This is the team game.
Yep.
So it is multiplayer, but it's one side versus the other side.
They have few different things for selecting teams, whether it's based on wounds. They have a confederation chart that you can roll on to see who's teaming up, whether it be order and destruction versus chaos and death, or order and death versus chaos and destruction. There's some rules here for that talk about possible GMing and allowing a game master within the your actual game with all your friends. If there's, say, an odd number, or you know somebody is letting someone else borrow their army, but that
they talk a little bit about the role of the game master.
Yeah.
The 5 different ways they say to select teams is just the one is just random selectors. So you pick or randomly select 2 to be the ones that pick for teams, and they pick their own teams. You can do it by wounds and trying your best to balance it out that way. That's probably the way I like it the least. Points, trying to have relatively equal points, unless you're all bringing the same point cost. Like Cullen mentioned, the one's Confederation, so you're actually doing a roll to see which
armies,
alliances, or great allegiances are doing it. Or just simply the games master, somebody that's going to come up with a narrative for the game and all that, and then jump into the game.
For sure.
So that's probably going to be the most experienced person in the group, able to make some neutral decisions on what will be the best game, and then continue on from there.
Exactly.
I feel like that the game master is probably going to be the best option there, just because it's always nice to have a neutral player to always kind of help with rules and doesn't seem too biased at the times.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on your game group.
True.
But good options there. One thing that they've added in here, which I like, is the generals and warlords. So each player picks a general for their army, as you normally would. But then each team must also pick one player to be the warlord. So they're suggesting whoever's got the biggest force or whoever's the most experienced, whatever it might be. And we have the finest hour rule that they've added in for the warlords.
So that is, before the game starts, you determine your warlord, and you determine when the general's finest hour will be. So that is determined by a D3 +1, and that is the turn that the final hour effect will come into play. And then you have your classic, you get a chart that you can roll on or choose, and then this offers a lot of fun different things, as well as on that turn, the general, or the warlord, who is the general, will heal D6 wounds that battle. Or
At the start of the battle round, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, when your warlord's finest hour arrives, and again, it's the D3 +1 roll you do at the beginning of the game to figure out what battle round it's going to be.
So turn 2 to 4.
They suddenly heal up, and then there is one of 6 things that you can either roll randomly or pick for their ability. Any favorites for you guys?
When I'm playing my Soul Blight, I'd have to say the Bloody Rampage. You're just going to wreck whatever you touch then.
Uh-huh.
It's just so...
Bloody Rampages, it triples the attack characteristic of all of the Warlord General's weapons, which is
huge. Cullen, what would your pick be?
I like the Unkillable, which is you must subtract 2 from the wound rolls for attacks made against the Warlord. In addition, the Warlord gains an improvement to a save to a 2-up. So he becomes a beast. He's hard to hit, and he's hard to, when you do get the hits through, hard to kill.
Gross.
Personally, I simply say kill them all. Kill them all. I don't know. Destruction, it just seems to fit. You add 1 to the wound rolls for units in the Warlord's Coalition that are within 24 inches of the Warlord's General in a combat phase.
Gross.
So everybody in that 24-inch bubble will get +1 a wound. And with the armies I play, we're usually wounding on 3s.
Yeah.
So going to wounding on 2s is kind of nice. Super handy-dandy. Cool stuff. And again, stuff that I could see being partially implemented into match play games, which is my most important thing here.
For sure. All these things I think can transfer over fairly nicely. The other cool thing they've added is the possibilities for Fog of War, which is a way to limit the communication between the allies.
Between the different team members, yeah. So they give you 2 different suggestions, and it's ones that we've come up with our own, but I think it's really cool that Games Workshop is actually giving suggestions on try some of this stuff.
For sure.
So the first one is messengers. Players can only discuss strategy and tactics if the 2 models representing their generals are within 3 inches of each other, and there's no enemy models within 3 of either of them.
So they get together, they whisper back and forth, and then they go back to their armies.
At other times, players are only allowed to communicate by written notes. 5 minutes is allowed at the start of each turn for players to write any messages. That's cool. I like that.
That's fluffy. That is so much fun.
Yep, brings back the old, he got a guy on a horse, he runs a little message over to the other guy, and he's got to run it all the way back. And, I mean, the minutes you can always change up however much it says 5, but I think it'd be really funny to limit it to something like a minute or 2.
Yeah.
So you're quickly scrolling down, writing what you're trying to communicate to your fellow player. And then the other one is the...
This is where you get the, you need to... I can't remember the actual... You're probably going to quote me on it, too. The attack the guns to the front. What was the actual message given for Charge of the Light Brigade?
Oh, no.
I can't remember what it is, but it was super vague. And if you're not familiar with the Charge of the Light Brigade from actual real-world history, check it out, because I see scenarios like that happening, and it would be amazing. Or attack the guns. Yeah, I think it was attack the guns to the front or something like that.
Out of my time period for that one.
True. Next, we get the charge declarations that they're talking about. So at the beginning of each charge phase, before any units charge, all players have 2 minutes to write down which of their units will charge in this phase. They must keep their choice a secret from all their players, including the players from their own team. This rule stops players from coordinating their attacks and may result in units getting in each other's way. I love it. Good.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. I really am excited to try some team games with this sort of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, no, this stuff is just awesome. And yeah, like you said, fluffy, fun, interesting, just a way to freshen up the game.
Yeah. Like, these are not something you'd be playing with like a match play super competitive, but you're going to be sitting around with your buddies going, let's have fun. And there's going to be so many laughs and people shaking their head afterwards going, what happened?
Well, what were you doing?
Or a lot of you sitting there going, don't do that, don't do that. Oh no, he did it.
Oh, that's it. I quit this alliance. I'm out.
See, I'm just envisioning the different times of, like, writing the message down and then watching, like, if we were on the same team going, like, how... I see why he had that understanding after reading my message, but that's not what I wanted him to do at all. Like, this is horrible.
Yeah,
I think it's
a telephone game at that
Yep.
point.
It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. The other one that we're going to talk about here, something they've added in, is Divine Intervention. So it's the idea that at the start of a team's hero phase, the team's warlord can attempt to invoke Divine Intervention. You look at the Grand Alliance that he's a part of, and as long as you meet the criteria, what is it? You roll 2d6, and if the roll is less than or equal to the warlord general's bravery, all the miraculous effects happen.
There are some crazy miraculous effects that happen here too. And again, every allegiance has its own criteria. For example, Order, in order to invoke this, at least half your coalition's starting army units have been slain. So you've taken severe casualties, and then you can use your Divine Intervention. And for example, some of these are Godly Strike. Choose 3 enemy units within 6 inches of each other, and have them they have to have at least 30 wounds combined. Then you roll a dice for each unit. On a 1, they're unharmed. On a 2 to 4, they suffer d6 mortal wounds. And on a 5 or 6, 2d6 mortal wounds.
Huge. Now, it's worth mentioning, too, if you're trying to invoke the Divine Intervention, if you fail the test, nothing bad happens.
No.
Now, they say you can only do this once per game. So again, another option will they've added in. We're not going to go through every single alliance, because each one has 3 abilities.
Yes.
And each one has a different criteria. They're all awesome.
Yeah.
This is all stuff I can't see myself using all of these different things combined together.
Yeah, I think that would lead to a lot of...
or at least not making a bat rep of it, but who knows? Like, if we get the chance to do some, I'm not going to make any promises or anything like that, but if we get the chance to do some team games, I could see that being super, super kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I think the Death one has been leaked before with the Warhammer community.
Okay.
I'll take your word on that one.
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has been. I think they previewed it already.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things, like, really want to get people a chance to check those out, because like you said, it could be really fun to try out and just change up a game.
And that's some of the stuff that I really like about this, is the fact that we're all excited for these fun different ways to play the game, and it's all in ways that are non-competitive. There's still some structure to it, but there's a lot of suggestions on how to either add structure or take away structure from these games.
For sure.
And I applaud Games Workshop. That's what they should be doing for a game like this. Whenever they came out with hard, steadfast rules of you must do it this way, there's always chances to kind of abuse those rules or
and again,
misunderstand the
limits the way in which you get to play your own games.
Yeah.
And this just gives you your control over your games, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Big fan of that. Now moving over again, we're not going to go over each one of the different battle plans, but for Coalition of Death, which is your team games, I think they give you 6 different scenarios.
Correct.
Yes.
And there's none of them that really, we read them all. They all sound pretty good. I mean, I can't think of any that I could see myself not doing.
Yep, they all work on like a objective and victory point kind of win conditions. Obviously different ways to get victory points, but they all seem pretty fun. The one thing I like about them is I think in all of them there's a way to earn victory points by killing things.
Yep.
So it rewards you for killing things. So I've always liked
As
that.
the game should. Moving over, okay, here's the one that kind of a doozy that I'm sure we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. Triumph and Treachery.
Yay!
Oh, yes.
This is a favorite of, I think, everybody in the office, the various different forms of Triumph and Treacheries, and I dare say this is probably one of the best written ones in the last little while.
I think so.
It's a definite improvement over the previous Age of Sigmar Triumph and Treachery.
Vastly. Like, the other one was just like a little...
It almost seems like, hey, we can throw this in, and, I think they gave it a page or 2.
Yeah.
Where this one has at least, there's 4 pages. 6 additional thing. So, yeah, wow.
And then you've got the actual scenarios for it.
Exactly.
So... They've taken the regular Triumph and Treachery the way it was before, the rule to see who's going to pick who goes first in each battle round.
Correct.
Some of the other things that they've added in is choosing your enemy in each phase.
This is something I really like, being fantasy, coming from fantasy, and this is how, in Warhammer Fantasy, when Triumph and Treachery was originally written, this is how it was. You choose your enemy per phase, Obviously, you can change who you are in the middle of phase, so it's not like my whole turn I have to go at Kyle. I can...
What did I do to you?
I don't know.
Ah.
You will see.
Yeah.
I can shoot him, I can charge Josh, and I think it leads to a lot of fun little things, and it helps with the whole alliance factor of Triumph and Treachery.
Yeah, you definitely, it adds an interesting depth into everything. And they give you the phases, they break it down. So the way it would work is, let's pretend the three of us are playing Triumph and Treachery. I would declare in the hero phase, Cullen will be my enemy. And it tells you, only enemy models can unbind spells. Neutral models are never affected by spells, even if they're within the radius of the spell. So I can really only do stuff to affect you, and you can try to unbind. Kyle wouldn't be allowed to do very much in that phase.
No, and you wouldn't be able to, say, cast an Arcane Bolt at his army.
Right, I can't target him with stuff, or I can't do the area of effect stuff and have him be affected by it. Now, it becomes important as we move on to some of the other stuff that they've added in. And this is the Bribery and the Treacherous Axe.
So this is Age of Sigmar's kind of way of, victory points, obviously, and then the bribes. The bribes are very similar to the cards that came with the Warhammer Fantasy Triumph and Treachery, which were a deck of cards that you would get every turn, and then you would play those at random times to add all kind of ill effects to you or your opponent, or just cause lots of shenanigans. The way this works is they use a Treachery point system. Let's see.
So you get Treachery points for having 1 point for being the one with the most victory points. 2 if you are...
And that's at the start of each battle round.
Yeah, start of each battle round. And then 3 if you have the least. So it's kind of like the same idea with the old Triumph and Treachery from 8. It's like, if you're having a rough game and you're just getting stomped, you have a whole bunch of extra Treachery points that you can use to start messing around with people.
To hopefully maybe let you claw your way back into the game, or if not, just annoy everyone who's left.
Right. So, yeah, if you're the top player for points before you determine who's going to go first and all that, you get 1. The player with the least gets 3. Everybody else gets 2. Also for the neutral phase. So after a player chooses their enemy for a phase, all of the neutral players get a chance to get a bonus Treachery point. It's representing them time... What do they say here? Taking the time to hatch devious plots while their opponents are embroiled in combat. So each neutral player rolls a 6. On a roll of 6, they get an extra Treachery point. They do suggest in a 3-player game, it's on a roll of 5 up, they get an extra Treachery point.
Just allows for more shenanigans to happen.
Yeah.
As there's more people can invoke different things. When there's not as many people, sometimes you guys don't have the advantage to get all those awesome little tricks that can come up. So just a way to kind of increase the number of shenanigans that happen.
Now, we're going to go over some of the different Treacheries in a minute, but you can basically use a Treachery whenever you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless there's a specific stipulation. The way it works is that you got to pay a certain amount of Treachery points, and the Treachery works on a 4-up.
Correct.
You can spend 1 extra Treachery point to add 1 to the roll, or 2 to add 2 to the roll.
So you can only ever get it on a 2-up if you...
Yeah, you can never make it automatic.
Yeah, because I think for a majority, it looks like most of them cost 2 points. Some of them do only cost 1, but that means if you want to invoke your one that costs 2 points on a 2-up, you have to spend 4 Treachery points.
Now, they also do say very specifically, if somebody uses a Treachery against you that's being triggered by something. So I think there's one in here when a War Machine tries to shoot.
When you do this to select it to move.
They do specify the player with the War Machine that just declared he was going to shoot, he can't then say, oh, never mind, I'm going to take it back.
Correct.
You're stuck with it. So once you declare your action, the Treachery's done, you're stuck. So do you guys want to go through a couple of the different Treacheries here?
Sure.
What's the favorite?
I've always liked the Duplicitous Mage.
Yeah.
So when you nominate a wizard and a spell to cast, you can't cast that spell. Nope.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
Nope. Not even changing the dice roll. Just straight up. Nope. Nope. Can't do it.
Oh, Disciples of Zine. Show that's a nice lore of change you have. He's not doing much.
Exactly, and that could say he's right next to your hero or one of your generals, and he's going to target him with the arcane bolt to try to kill him. Nope, can't kill him. He's going to be safe from magic this turn. I like that one personally. How about you, Josh?
It's the Alliance. So you use it when you are selected as the enemy player in a phase. You spend 2 treachery points, and a different player must be chosen as the enemy player.
That one can be brutal.
If this is impossible for any reason, all opponents are treated as being neutral in that phase. So, you know, in that big game where Cullen set up his models and he's going to get that charge off and destroy my army, sorry, bro, we're on the same team right now.
Can't charge. That's just one of the ones that hits you hard. You're like, oh.
Well, now I'm just sad.
I guess I'll choose Kyle, who I haven't, I'm not close enough to charge. Like,
that's on the other side of the board supporting you or something
exactly.
like that. Absolutely hilarious. Now, unlike the previous way that Fantasy had done it, these aren't random, because the way they did it before was cards in your hand.
Correct.
So at least everybody has an idea here. But again, how many are there total?
12?
Yeah.
It'd be pretty easy to roll a d12 and get a random one. Like, there's definitely ways you can add on to this. So it gives such a cool framework for different things. I'm a big fan of this stuff.
I love this stuff.
I don't know how well it'll translate to battle reports, but you better bet I'm going to try to figure out how to make it work. Maybe not right away, guys, but eventually. The last thing they talk about is some optional secret objectives.
Mm-hmm. And this is just an additional way to gain victory points. Again, you roll, and things like Secret Agenda. Inflict 1 or more wound on a model from the army that the player who's set up on your right or left. And if you are able to do that, you get 1 victory point.
And the way that these work is you roll a d6 at the start of the game, it's secret, and you have that dice stashed away hidden somewhere. Mm-hmm. And when you have your secret objective go off, you can show everybody and get your extra VPs.
Just a classic way to get some cheeky victory points that your opponents aren't expecting.
Yeah, and something range from being like really easy to get, from like inflicting the 1 wound, to like you have to kill the enemy's general.
And of course, the harder it is,
yeah,
the more victory points you get.
Mm-hmm.
That one gives you 3.
I love this stuff. These for me, I mean, this kind of stuff brings me back to when I started playing these games 16 years ago. Obviously not Age of Sigmar, but other Warhammer games. And playing with buddies and coming up with scenarios. And this is super fun stuff. I mean, this isn't tournament stuff, but this is gaming with your buddies, fun stuff. I love it. Again, there are, for Triumph Treachery scenarios, they give you 6 new scenarios.
Yep. Some of these kind of remind me of the stuff you get in the old box one, like Battle for the Artifact.
I don't know if they're all new. Isn't this one in the...
I think that's in the old Triumph and Treachery book.
Oh, okay, from Fantasy?
Yeah, but they have
Battle for the Artifact, yeah.
Mm-hmm. 2 scenarios from the original General's Handbook are different from the ones here, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I think they did at least tweak some of the stuff. But Cullen might end up correcting me. But there are 6 scenarios.
Yeah.
And none of the weird, like, you need 8 2x2s to make the board for it, ones that they had in the first General's Handbook. I don't know what they were doing with that.
Yeah, that was interesting to say the least. And they all have like a neat little flair to them, so they feel different each time you're playing them. Like, Border Wars is different than Fighting for the Central Ground, and Rite of Conquest.
So there is one similar to the Artifact here, but even the deployment is actually a tad different.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the Center Ground, that one is different. We planned this ahead of time.
Nothing but the best here,
No.
Yeah.
So
at the very least they've tweaked them.
Yeah.
But I think I think there's the 2 kind of regular ones they kept and changed a little bit.
Yep.
And then they've added 4 more on that are
for sure
easier to do than the other ones from the first General's Handbook.
Yeah. Correct.
Even though they were cool. The last thing they talk about for Triumph and Treachery is the Triumph and Treachery map campaign.
Again, you didn't hate your friends already enough,
right?
You know, over multiple battles.
If you want to add even more ridiculous rules to something that already has ridiculous rules, we have special rules for each realm, correct?
No, okay, so this one is, you have the spoil, so you hold in different locations, and they give you bonuses.
Like 1 to your unbinding, or add 1 to battle shock tests for enemy units within 8 inches of all of yours. It's like there's fun little things you can add on, like not really game breaking, but just something with a little tweak. I think these were in the original General's Handbook under map campaigns.
I think they were. They did talk about them a little bit, but again, super fun stuff for you to try with your buddies when you want to tweak the game a little bit. When you're getting bored of regular old match play. So while Kyle's looking that up, we're going to jump over narrative play games. Narrative play is one thing that we didn't really get into here at all. So narrative play, they give you the different ideas for themed armies. They give you rules for fighting in each of the realms. Cool stuff, not something I'm super interested in. I don't know about you guys. They give you some specific scenarios too to recreate some different battles, as well as kind of have your own, well, narrative stuff going on.
I think the idea of having different rules and little tweaks and changes for the different realms is definitely kind of cool. Again, the realms are still something that are new and haven't been fleshed out too terribly much. So getting little things that, you know, can actually help you learn these things but still play.
Yeah, again, it's interesting little things. And again, I mean, they had rules for some of the different realms in the previous General's Handbook. We didn't make full use of them.
Nope.
But it's just another thing to add in if you're getting bored with your regular old match play. You know what? We're gonna fight a regular old game, but we're gonna fight in the realm of fire.
Yep.
So,
or even the stuff in like the realm of light or realm of shadows, which we've heard basically nothing about since the primer. So there's at least something there for people who have like their own armies that are from there, or their own stories they want to do. There's at least something for you to work with.
Yep, they also have a little blurb about each one, so it gives you, again, a little bit more fluff about each realm.
So solid stuff. Something I'm a little bit more interested in, if we jump all the way over to page 60, guys, is the sieges.
Yes! Love me some siege.
So there's certain rules for creating your stronghold and all that. There is the addition of the siege phase. It's what you do before the first battle round begins, and it's basically affecting both armies.
Yeah,
there's a couple different little things you can do.
Yeah, the way these rules are trying to, again, input some fluff into your game, so it kind of gives the idea of actually doing a full castle siege or something where, you know, you can actually have your models starve if they're, you know, hunkered down in their castle as your opponent sieges them and allows no other resources to get in. There's rules for tunneling, if you want to dig a tunnel underneath. So there's some definitely really cool things that they've added to this. Again, very reminiscent of the Warhammer Siege expansion for fantasy.
One thing I liked about this over the fantasy one is you don't have to have a castle.
Correct.
Like there's all you have to have is just 5 terrain features. That's it. And it could be anything. It could be walls, forests, swamps. That's it. That's your fortress that you can then set up.
Yeah, definitely. They show you with some of the Age of Sigmar terrain here. They got the Sylvaneth Woods for the wood elf, so it allows you to actually make some thematic things to your armies as well.
Yep.
You mean wood elves don't build stone castles?
Who'd have thunk it, eh? We're going to dig under the trees. That'll work. So yeah, some cool stuff. And then they give you multiple different siege scenarios. I think you get 2 different scenarios, 2 different battle plans for them. Fun stuff. So this is everything that is in the book before we get to match play. Again, I know, guys, it was kind of a skim over some of this stuff, but to get in depth, too in depth, I think we're already 38 minutes into the video. There's a ton of stuff here. I would be after this book even if it didn't have the match play stuff in it. There's a ton of fun, different ways to play. So I really, really enjoy that. And again, kudos to Games Workshop for not focusing just on competitive play.
Yep, giving something to everybody. And I think that's what this book really tries to do.
You know, I had some concerns that, you know, match play, they were going to put a lot of work into trying to balance out match play in different ways and try to expand on that, and that the open play would kind of get left behind. Because even though originally I said I wasn't a big fan of it, I was a big fan of it because it didn't feel that well fleshed out. Now, especially the Triumph and Treachery stuff, I'm super excited. Like, I loved playing Age of Sigmar Triumph and Treachery before. It is so much better now.
Just so many different new things added. But here we get on to the meat and potatoes part of the review.
The part of the review in the book. So match play, as we flip through the pages, the first thing I noticed that they have added are the allies.
Now this part is...
So they've got your different army sizes. So we're going to talk about Battle Host because it's what most people are familiar with. 2,000 points still.
Correct.
Leaders, battle line, artillery, behemoths, and other units, they're all the same, but they allow you to bring 400 points of allies.
Yeah, it seems to be like a fifth of the... whatever size your army is, that's allies.
20% is you can bring 20% allies for that. So the way allies work is when we get to talking at the point cost, For all the different allegiances, they've now added in allies. So the idea is you can bring something from one of the allied factions and not break the allegiance of your army. So I'm going to talk about the one that I'm interested in, because it's what I play, is with Beast Claws, there's a variety of different factions. It's mostly ogre factions, if not all of them. I can bring 400 points worth of allies and still maintain my Beast Claw allegiance. I can still keep my Beast Riders as battle line. That's super cool.
Yeah, no, and the fact that, I mean, Skaven have always had all the different clans, and the fact that you can have your Pestilence, still using your Pestilence abilities, but bring in some Skyer for some extra War Machine killiness. Yeah. I love that. I love me some rats. And the more rats, the more variety we can have in it. This is awesome. This is great. Yeah,
and getting to bring my, basically my undead, instead of going, well, I really love using Death Rattle, but they've got no like mage support or like super heavy fast hitters. It's nice to all of a sudden say, okay, cool, I can now bring in a vampire or something else that I'm used to using with my old vampire counts army from 8th.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now the blurb for allies here, I'm going to read kind of the main part of it. So allied units are treated as part of the player's army, except that they are not included in working out the army's allegiance or the number of battle line units in the army. And an allied model cannot be the army general.
So that's, you got to remember that, because I'm sure some of you out there going, okay, so what I can do is, you know, choose one faction and that's really powerful, but then use another one that they're allied with to get a really cheap way to get your battle line units. Yeah.
Zombies for death. So what it's saying is, you know, if you're a Soulblight player and you want to play with the Soulblight allegiance, you're totally cool to do that. You can ally some zombies in and not break your Soulblight allegiance, but those zombies are not going to count towards your minimum amount of battle line units.
For sure. Yeah.
Which makes sense. You know, you can't really abuse it too much.
No, and I'm happy they did that, because, yeah, that leads to possibly making some skews that, you know, aren't... There's a reason the battle line units are selected in the way in which they are.
Yep.
And then this would be a way to kind of jump over that. So I'm happy they included that stipulation so they didn't break anything that they created.
You built some more interesting armies.
Yeah.
So the other one I look at here is what it does count towards.
Your leader, behemoth, and artillery units.
So your maximums for that.
Yeah.
So you can't just have a bunch of, you know, you can't bring 6 heroes in 2,000 points of your main allegiance and then bring a bunch of other heroes for your allied one.
But I want 4 mages.
We can get 4 mages, but you only get 2 from your main allegiance.
I want all of them.
You can't bring 10 characters.
Oh.
At least not 2,000 points. That makes sense. And it doesn't change any of the keyword stuff.
Nope.
Yeah.
So if you're playing Stormcast and you've got free people as allies or whatever it might be, the other way around, you don't get the keyword of your main allegiance there. So overall, a really cool way for them to simply add some allied units into this.
Very happy they did this. This is cool.
This was a long time coming. They needed to do this. So again, good job on that one. Moving on to the next bit here is the rules of 1. There are the same 3 rules of 1, but we've added 2 more.
More rules.
Kyle, if you'd be so kind, what is the 4th rule of 1?
So the 4th rule of 1 is you cannot re-roll or modify the rule at the start of each battle round that determines who chooses the player that takes the first turn.
Now, I don't know how much this one comes up, but I know you said that there's something in the Fire Slayers.
Yeah, I think there's a Fire Slayer, Lords of the Lodge, I think, is what it's called, that allows you to modify the roll to see who's going to go.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to use that in match play.
I'm sure there's more, but that was the first one we could think of offhand, but...
Yeah, because I use it a bunch. Every time I play Fire Slayers. Or almost every time I play Fire Slayers. So, you know what, though, that makes sense, and I think that we might see some other stuff come out for open play games that allow you to modify that roll.
Yep.
So, I don't know how much that is for current stuff compared to future stuff. And the 5th rule of 1, the one that makes me sad.
No artifact of power or similar item can be taken more than once in the same army.
It's not my fault. They were all carrying a small part of the Pelt of Trangar.
This is cool. This really makes the artifacts seem unique, which is, I mean, what the whole point of them was to be is they are unique magic items that let you do crazy things. And it was kind of strange that in your army you could have 3 guys carrying the same unique magic item.
It wasn't a full pelt. It was like a handkerchief Sharingar that they all had.
Dab my bleeding eyes or something here.
So, you know what? I gotta believe that Games Workshop, the intention was originally for them to have the rule be this way for artifacts, and they just didn't word it right, or somebody forgot it, and now they're putting it in there. Makes sense, guys.
Yeah. Not only does it mean that you can't, double up on the same ones, but it means that you're actually going to be using more than just one. That you have to go and find out which one would be best on which character, and not just, no, I'll just have that one on all of them.
Right. So it kind of makes sense.
Yep.
I'm happy that they've done that. I didn't see any changes for your reinforcement points. It works the same way as it did before.
I think they cleared up a little bit some of the questions about abilities.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that tidied up some of the wording on it. Yeah. I think the example is Scar Bloodwrath.
Yep.
When he comes back, you got to pay the points for him. If you didn't have the points set aside, he doesn't come back.
Yeah. And maybe some groups play that way, some groups didn't. I know I played with a couple of people that he just kept popping back in match play. I'm like, so you need to have
with
points
him,
for that.
Yeah, because you weren't sure if it was a fresh unit or not, but yeah.
Yeah.
Good that they haven't made any changes, because they shouldn't have.
Nope.
Yeah.
Things were working properly. Battlefield rules, again, exactly the way that they were before. I don't see anything new here. Triumph's working the same way. What we have had them at is 6 new battle plans, 6 new scenarios.
Yep.
And let's flip over to them, because I think that's what's up next. So again, we're not going to go in super in depth and give you exactly every single scenario here. A lot of them feel similar to the previous General Handbook scenarios, and with some slight modifications.
Yeah,
so I look, Knife to the Heart feels a lot like, I think it's Take and Hold was the first one out of there.
I think so.
Except for the deployment is the board's just split diagonally.
Using math.
From corner to corner.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it makes sense. It's the same, trying to control both objectives and you win.
Mm-hmm. The thing I like about it is, of course, that because these are all optional rules, there's nothing, if you don't like these exactly, there's nothing saying you can't go back and use the first General's Handbook scenarios.
Yeah.
If you like those ones better, or you like the wording on them or something, they're totally kosher to use those over these.
Sure.
These do not override anything else.
You might see certain tournament circuits or like that say that we're only going to use the 2017 scenarios.
Yep.
Digging back into my gaming history here, I think of the Steamroller package that was put out for
War
Machine and Hordes. Same kind of idea here. So every year we're going to get a new 6 scenarios. Cool.
That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Nothing saying that, you can't go back and play for fun with the other previous scenarios. Some tournaments might choose to use both sets of scenarios. Some tournaments might choose to use one or either. But it's just adding on to the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I assume most of the bigger tournaments are going to run the new scenarios, though.
I would assume so. They're new. They're fresh. They're fun.
Yeah, and it shakes up any other tournament, so people won't get used to playing the same scenario over and over and over again.
And they've done little tweaks, like there's certain one, Duality of Death feels like, I think it was, 3 places of power. Now there's only 2 objectives, and it could be a hero or behemoth able to hold it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some cool ones. Now, I don't think there's anything like Scorched Earth before, was there?
Nope.
No, well, no, I don't think there is anything. This is a new mechanic, and this is one we all kind of like the sound of.
For sure. Very narrative in the naming, but essentially there's 6 objectives on the board that you can control by, as normal, you stand on them, and if you're closest model, you control that objective. But then you also have the ability to burn or raise that objective, and you remove the objective from the board, and you gain D3 victory points. So this is super cool and can lead to some interesting strategies in which you play. Certain armies may take advantage of burning and raising certain objectives, where other armies might want to hold back and push guys out to raise your opponents.
Yeah, there's some cool things here, and there's some cool strategies. So this is the scenario out of the bunch I think I'm the most excited to play.
Definitely.
Yeah. See what the ogres can do for burning and pillaging their way through the board. So it's cool. I like what they've done with the scenarios. The only one that kind of sticks out, kind of weird for me, like Star Strike, I'm really going to have to sit down and read the proper way. This is one where they're dropping fragments onto the board as objectives. And Total Conquest looks like just a mess to set up, but it's not. But I get a headache every time I look at the deployment map.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Here, Cullen, hold your book up real quick so all the folks can see.
It's like a staircase? I don't know what else that would be called.
But if I look at where the objectives are and what they're trying to accomplish, it's super easy to figure out. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about the picture that gives me a headache.
Yeah, no, I just think of running your measuring tape along the table, and then when you put the dice, it's just a lot of dice will be needed to lay this one out correctly.
Yeah.
To lay it out nicely. I think you do it correctly with not that many of them, but you gotta get used to it. Overall, pretty happy with what they've done for the different scenarios here. Again, not going too in depth to all of them, but they have seemed to balance them out, so all the different armies out there can meet the objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So flipping over now, some new things that they've added in. We're going to talk about the pitch battle profiles here. So new point costs.
Yep.
Now, what they've done to make it easy for you is they put a little star next to anything that they've changed for point cost. The big addition for me is the massive regiments. So I'm going to use Bray Herds because it's at the top here, and we're going to talk about Gores. So the way it works now is the unit size is from 10 to 30 still.
Mm-hmm.
And normally it'd be the simple, you pay, the points are 80 points for 10, and for every 10 you pay 80 points. Massive Regiment says that if you bring the maximum size unit, they give you the point cost there, plus they give you a discount.
Yep, so they actually give you two numbers on certain things. So there's a number / a number.
So for the Gores, normally I would be paying 80 points for 10, which would make sense. I'd pay 160 points for 20, 240 points for 30, but they say no, the maximum unit size is 30 and you only pay 210 points.
Yeah.
So I get a 30-point discount for bringing a big unit.
Encouraging you to not only bring larger units, but I guess to take the maximum size. Not only just taking 20, but going up to the full max of 30 to get that 30-point reduction.
I know a lot of units seem to have that if you have 20 or more models, always seems to be like the encouragement. You never usually want to have just the 20 because as soon as you take that one wound,
right,
it always disappears.
Yep.
So it kind of rewards you for taking the full units, and it makes your battle lines, well, it seems to be mostly like the battle lines seem to get it.
That's true.
It seems to more or less fill out your battlefield too. It makes it look more like the armies being fielded with battle line troops, along with what else you would have.
Right. So as far as chaos, like what are some of the major ones here? Blades of Corn. Taking a quick flip through, it looks like probably about a third of the models have had a points change. None of the War Scroll battalions. Every different allegiance though has had at least an okay amount of point changes.
For sure.
The big thing here, guys, is talking about the different allies.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Blades of Corn, we're going to look at this. So the allies for Blades of Corn. So these are the different different models you can bring without breaking allegiance, as long as you're not going over your maximum. So the allies are Bray Herds, Chaos Gargants, Everchosen, Monsters of Chaos, Nurgle Rotbringers, Slaves of Darkness, excluding units with the Mark of Slaanesh, and the War Herds. So you get access to a ton of stuff. You don't get to bring, half your army of it, but you can stay Blades of Corn. So what I like about this is the fact that they can create more versatile armies.
Yeah.
So I go back to, I know I keep talking, I'm sounding like a broken record, but Beast Claw, I had it was 8 different choices for things I could bring. It wasn't a unique kind of versatile, well-expanded army.
No, and
now I can bring some different stuff and still maintain my allegiance.
I definitely felt that too with all the different Skaven clans. Clan Molder only having, at that time it only had one battle line option. One of the things that they've added that if you are Molder, you actually get to take Rat Ogres. So adding an additional battle line unit. But it really did restrict you to having I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5.
You got 5 choices.
Army out of 5.
But now you can bring Master Clan, which is, I think, your Greyseers and stuff like that.
Correct.
They're an allied choice, so you can play your giant Rat Ogre unit, but you can bring that Sorcerer in easily and, create an army that makes sense.
You got your Clan Verminous for your, your Clan Rats, your Storm Vermin, your basic troops that you're definitely going to want there to help bolster your army.
Yeah, I really liked what they've done for this. I would love to sit here, guys, and go over all the point cost changes, but there's too many.
Oh,
there are way too many.
It is one thing that we must point out that, unlike all the other rules, which are optional, and you can go back to using some of the scenarios and whatever for the General's Handbook, these new point costs overrule all the old ones. Yep. So these are the ones you have to use now. no real choice there.
Well, for match play stuff, it's
Yeah.
the ones that make sense to use. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and if you weren't wanting to use the new point cost, then you're probably not going to use point cost at all. Use a different system to figure out army balance for yourself.
Yep. Another point I wanted to make was it does seem like at least I noticed a fair number of the War Scroll battalions have actually increased in points.
A lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
They seem to have done a pretty decent job of balancing things out.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the Beast Claw stuff is more expensive, but there's a little bit of it that's cheaper, which is kind of handy dandy, but not that much. So all the different things that didn't make sense seem to be helping a little bit. Now, one that I pointed out that Kyle and I talked about as soon as we cracked this book open is what's not in the book, Kyle?
None of the legacies.
Well, there's some of the legacies, just not many of them.
Well, even then, like some of these stuff that didn't have or was not rolled into, like, for example, Free People with Empire Knights. The Empire Knights are gone. So, Bretonnians, Tomb Kings, they haven't had their points updated. There's nothing about them in here. So we've been trying to figure out what happens there, and I think we kind of came to the consensus it was...
Use the old legacy points if you want to, if your opponent's cool with it.
Yeah.
And simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand they're going to give you the rules so you can still play with them, especially with open play and stuff like that.
Right.
With match, I can see them trying to discourage old models they don't use anymore.
Correct.
Much to my Bretonnians are very sad that's happening.
Now, as we flip through and look at all these different ones, again, there's a ton of interesting stuff. There's too much to go over each individual one. We are going to continue on to what they've done is one War Scroll update on page 113. It's one funny little example, but I think, is this going to be their chosen method if they want to update War Scrolls? Because they updated point costs all over the place, but the Grunstock Thunderers have actually had a change to their War Scroll. I'm not an Overlords player. I will admit I played against them once, but I didn't really get to see what they could do, so I'm not sure what the Thunderers are supposed to be like.
Yeah, it does seem weird that this is, like one of the brand new armies that's getting its War Scroll battalion changed. But, I mean, it could have just been an oversight in creation or something like that.
Mistakes are going to happen.
Yes, for sure. So, flipping down now to the interesting bits is we're going to talk about some different allegiances. So what I want to do is we're going to go through all the different allegiances. We're not going to go through all of their artifacts, all the command traits, but we're going to touch on at least each one here.
Yes.
So they have changed the allegiance order. Just your basic order one. So the big change is the battle trait. You went from re-rolling battle shock tests when you were within 12 or 18 of your general.
A 12 of your general or a hero.
But now you just re-roll battle shock tests for friendly order units in the battle shock phase.
Yeah.
Across the board. So that makes sense, because the order one, the battle trait always is kind of lame.
Yep.
It just didn't make that much sense. It wasn't that interesting compared to Rampaging Destroyers.
Yeah, it definitely felt like one of the weaker of the four.
Now, as far as command traits, fairly similar here. Is there one that sticks out to you guys that they've changed that is either good, bad, or worth talking about?
The two ones that changed were the first two, Strategic Genius and Inspiring. They just had minor tweaks, like with Strategic Genius, instead of saying, oh, you automatically get to use 2 different command traits, now you have to roll for it.
Yeah, it works on a 5-up.
Yeah. And Inspiring, because Defiant Avengers changed, the whole battle trait changed, they had to change what that did. And it's, if you're within 6 inches of your general, you take no battle shock tests, which is amazing for free people. Because you're like, oh, okay, go ahead and slaughter most of these guys, they're not running.
Yep, your big units of little scrubby guys who have a relatively low bravery. They ain't running away anymore, even if they lose half their unit.
Yep.
That being said, I'm sure in a minute or two we might decide that the free people won't want to use the Order Allegiance abilities. But who knows? What about artifacts? Have we had any changes to the artifacts?
The biggest change to the artifacts that we see here is they're mostly the same.
Yep.
Except mounts can now take the weapons.
Yeah, they don't specify. They used to specify in a lot of different stuff that you couldn't use the weapons for the mount. I don't see that anywhere anymore. I don't know if I missed something earlier on for the artifacts.
The Quicksilver potion itself actually does specify in brackets and its mount if it has one. But when we were comparing between this General's Handbook and the last one, a lot of the quotes in the last one had the brackets with excluding the mount. Well, they've removed that from most of these that had it, if not all.
So yeah, and I'm not seeing anything earlier on. This is the mount can't do it. So hey, we might be wrong on this. There might be something that we missed that we're not pointing out. But
I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
You're good to go for the mount. They've gotten away from that. Flipping the page, we're going to talk about the Darkling Covens. So this is your old school Dark Elves.
Yep.
I want to get away from always talking about the fantasy stuff, but I still play fantasy, so...
This is your Dread Spears, your Bleak Swords, your Dark Shards, those kind of guys.
Yep. And the Sorceress of the Dragons and that kind of stuff.
A bunch of good things here. So they have got 2 unique battle traits. Kyle, you want to start us off on Lethal Coordination. How's it work?
So you take your Dread Spears, Bleak Swords, and Dark Shards. They basically are designed to work together at this point. So if you have... a friendly dark, like those 3 within 6 inches of each other, you count that unit size with the other unit. So, for example, they give here is you have 10 dark shards or within 6 inches of 10 Dreadspear models, then they count as a unit of 20 strong when looking at their abilities. So, for the dark shards, they would count as having 20 models for the purpose of its Storm of Iron-Tipped Bolts ability.
Does that believe an extra attack?
Yeah, I think it's an extra shot on them.
Something like that.
It's a good shooting bonus.
Yeah.
So you're able to have your units here, but there's no more of that, well, I'm going to kill one guy from that unit at 20. Now it's not a unit at 20 anymore.
Yeah.
As long as they get some friends close by. Pretty cool. It's
it's a really big bonus because they can actually spend a lot less points on their battle line if they need to, and just still get all of their abilities. Like I can see that being very brutal later on.
Now moving over to the other one, the Tyrannical Ruler. If a friendly Darkling Coven unit has to take a battle shock test when they are within 3 inches of the general, you can choose to inflict a mortal wound on the unit instead of taking the battle shock test.
How very dark elfy.
Yep.
Right? Everyone wants to run away. The general grabs a guy, kills him, says nobody else runs, and everyone else, oh, okay, we'll go back to fight.
Run. And then in addition, the general can use one of the following command abilities. Command underlings. Pick one friendly Darkling Coven unit within 12 inches of the general until your next hero phase. The unit can run and still shoot and or charge in the same turn. For a fast army, that's pretty nice. The other one you can pick to use is Inspire Hatred. Pick one friendly Darkling Coven unit within 12 inches of the general. Reroll wound rolls of 1 for the unit until your next hero phase.
For sure.
Pretty good.
There's that old hatred from the Dark Elves again.
Talking about command traits next. Again, I don't want this to be the longest video ever that we've done. Cullen, give me your most interesting command trait out of the 6 that you have to pick from here.
Oh, geez. I'm just going to read the first one I see. Let's go Effortless Gaze. Add 1 to the save roll for your general.
Yeah, Effortless Grace. Really, really good.
Just simple, quick, boom. There you go. You get 1 to your save. So if you got a guy with a 4-up save, he's got a 3-up now. Makes him a little more survivable. So there's a bunch of, and again, there's 6 brand new ones there. So
see, here's the thing: is that you're supposed to pick Impossibly Swift.
Yeah, well,
we all have different opinions on this. You must subtract 1 from the hit rolls made for attacks that target the general.
Yeah,
that's what I get for putting you on the spot.
Right? Honestly, I read the shortest one.
You should have really gone with Sustained by Misery, though. You get those D3 wounds back anytime your general or anybody slays an enemy model within 12 inches.
You don't need to get wounds back if you don't get hit, Kyle.
I like dragons.
What a great reason.
Jumping over now to the artifacts. Is there an artifact out of the 6 that stands out to anybody as being a little bit above and beyond, or just something cool that you haven't seen before in Age of Sigmar?
Let's see.
Just a throwback, but that old Heart of Woe.
Yep.
Just have one of your characters run up, die, and then inflict die 3 mortal wounds to each enemy unit within 3 inches.
Nice.
Yep, that's bringing back some bad memories. There's an assassin. There goes most of my high elves.
Jumping over. Next we're going to look at Dispossessed. The dwarves get rules.
I really like this. This is bringing back, again, we're going back to fantasy. You get grudges back.
Ben, this is for you. Ben's come in and played me before, and he wasn't too happy with his Dispossessed. Or I guess David White, I thrashed him pretty bad.
That's true, actually. So not only do they get grudges, which again, let's choose one, let's say Shoddy Craftsman. You can re-roll hit rolls of 1 for dispossessed if the unit you're targeting has a save characteristic of 4 or better. So he doesn't. His armor isn't built that well.
No.
You
you didn't build that well. Let me show you.
Exactly.
Pretty cool. The other thing they've added into the dwarves, other than the grudges, is the stubborn to the end. So if you roll a 1, 2, or 3 when taking a battle shock test for a dispossessed unit, you're treated as having passed it.
Mm-hmm.
Irrespective of any of the modifiers to the bravery or casualties or anything else.
And this is the thing that I really like about all these individual allegiance abilities, is it really... Some of them armies, when Age of Sigmar came out, they kind of lost a little bit of their fluff. And this really brings that unique feel and fluffiness of the army back.
Well,
that I thought it really needed.
Other than, unlocking battle line for certain stuff, there's a point of playing certain allegiances now, which
For sure.
I really like. How about command traits? Out of the 6, is there a fan favorite of the bunch here, guys?
Last time you told me, you picked me on the spot, I chose wrong.
Well, you made mistakes, Colin.
Grudge Bearer?
That's kind of what I've been looking at, which allows you to, in your hero phase, choose a new grudge. Or if you're rolling for it, you get to roll for a new one. So obviously it gives you some play with that. And
some flexibility is always nice when you're playing a slow army like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's not actually roll for it. It's you pick. So it gives you options of, what do I want to do this turn? If I need to take care of, someone with 4-up armor or less, well, I'm going to change it to Shoddy Craftsman. So I know I will get that reroll ones against that unit I'm attacking this turn.
Pretty nice. Moving over to the artifacts, definitely the number one best one, I don't care what you guys say, is the Ancestral Pickaxe.
Oh.
This is hilarious. Once during the battle in your hero phase, you can remove this model and up to 1 other friendly dispossessed unit within 3 of this model from the battlefield. They are set up again at the start of your next hero phase anywhere on the battlefield within 3 inches of each other and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. That cancels their move for their following movement phase. That is hilarious.
Away they go tunneling with their magical pickaxe.
Oh, here's my Thane, and guess what? He brought 30 of his friends with hammers. Let's rumble.
Down he goes into his hole and whoop, right behind you.
Super excited. Cool stuff for the dispossessed. Really happy with that. Next over to the Free Peoples. This is one that you guys were both excited for.
Yeah, I really like this, obviously, being a former Empire player. Well, still Empire player. So they get, you can reroll Battle Shock tests for Free People units in the Battle Shock phase.
So same as the General Order one, but it's just specific now to Free People. So
Yep.
that's kind of nice. You get the one from, oh gracious, the Good Grand Alliance ability, but still here.
Right. I mean, so it won't affect your allies if they don't have the Free People keyword.
Yeah.
So not only do you get that, you get the Free Guild Great Companies. So if you're familiar with all the former detachment rules, so essentially if you have a unit of Free Guild Guard that is at least 20 or more models, you can then have 2 other Free Guild units that at least have 10 or more models join into a Great Company. And in order to keep with your Great Company, the unit lending support must be is 3 inches away from
the enemy. Yep.
And be 3 inches within your unit, right? Or 6 inches.
Yeah,
for both.
Yeah. So all it's saying here is that the unit lending support or the unit being supported both have to be more than 3 inches away from the enemy. You can't be engaged, and the unit's going to be within 6 of each other.
Correct.
But if they are within 6 of each other, what happens if you declare a charge?
If I'm getting charged and I've got my Great Company there, I can choose to shoot as if they were within shooting phase. So say if I got my unit of Free Guild Guard and I got some crossbows beside them, well then as they're getting charged, those crossbows get to take their shots as the unit charges in.
Well, no, I think it's at the end of the enemy charge phase you do this, right?
Yeah, at the end of each charge phase.
Yeah, so you complete the charge and then it happens. But then you also can have the option of essentially making a counter charge. So you get to have your unit then charge into that combat.
Well, I don't think that'll work because the unit being supported is going to be more than 3 away from the enemy.
Yes.
So as long as they're close, you can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if the enemy manages to charge in, I think you can't do the supporting stuff anymore.
Yeah, I think if they multi-charge, you don't get it.
Oh, because what it's saying here. I'm going to read it out. So at the end of each enemy charge phase, units in a Free Guild Great Company can lend support to other units from the Great Company if all the following apply. The unit lending support is more than 3 away from the enemy. the unit being supported is more than 3 inches away, and the 2 units are within 6 of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that means, the way I'm reading that, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is let's say I'm playing Free People. It's the end of Cullen's charge phase. He's got a unit that didn't charge in, so it meets all those criteria. I can say, well, you know what? Let's shoot at them.
Yep.
Yeah. I think you're right there.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, I think I had that confused a little bit with the old rules there.
Yeah, you got back into fantasy, man.
Yeah. Maybe I got a little too excited for what I thought it was. Sad face.
Jumping over to command traits. Any command traits that stick out for you? I think there was Inspiring was the main one we had talked about.
Correct.
Which is pretty much the same as the Grand Alliance one, but it's instead of 6 inches, you don't have to take battle shock tests, it's 9 inches. So it's a bit of benefit, but again, only for Free Peoples.
Yep, and I think that's going to be a big one to use there.
Yeah. I do like the Shrewd Commander, though. You receive an extra triumph at the start of the battle.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
No good for me because I've forgotten it in every single game of Age of Sigmar I've ever played. But for those with a better memory than me, which I assume is most of you playing these games, pretty handy. Any artifacts that really stick out that you guys are interested in?
I mean, I like the fact that the Armor of Meteoric Iron is back, so you just get to add 1 to your save roll.
I liked the Writ of Dominion.
Yeah, you did.
If this model cannot move, charge, or pile into your next hero phase. However, until your next hero phase, you can add 1 to the wound rolls made for friendly Free People units that are within 6 inches of this model. Yarf.
Yeah, the Broken Shackle is also another good one, which is you may retreat and charge as if it can fly. In addition, the model can retreat and charge in the same turn.
Handy dandy.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Now, I've got one question, and I don't think we came to a consensus on this yet. But if you go to the Age of Sigmar app, Free Peoples has the Empire and Bretonnia in it. So does Bretonnia get this?
Well, I assume like if you talk to your opponent and they're okay with you using the legacy stuff, that would be the way I would handle it.
Yeah. As a way to incorporate the stuff that is no longer in this. I mean, you still got the rules in the old book, or the points there.
Yeah, but like you said, the legacy stuff is not there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They've updated some stuff, but not all of it.
Question for GW later on.
I'm curious to see how that ends up getting handled.
For sure.
Moving over next, we're going to see Fire Slayers. So this is one of the
all
armies that did get released before the first General's Handbook, but they were a new army, and they were kind of lackluster. So in addition to a lot of points changes for them that really helped them out, they've added some battle traits. So the battle trait that we see is the Urgold Runes. There are, let me see here, 6 different ones that you can pick. Each one of them you can pick in the hero phase, and you can't pick them more than once per game. So like the Rune of Relentless Zeal, I can only use once per game. But the way it works is it automatically goes off. And I roll a d6. On a 1 to 5, I get the standard effect. On a roll of 6, I get the standard and the enhanced effect. So for the Rune of Relentless Zeal, I'm adding 4 inches to the move characteristic of friendly Fire Slayer units. For the enhanced effect, I'm adding 4 to the charge rolls.
That's huge. That's huge.
That makes them super speedy. For an army that moves 4 inches a turn, that's kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. All 6 of them are worth using too. We have ones that help with your hit rolls. We have some that add extra damage, that help increase the rend, that help you not take battle shock tests, as well as add the range to your throwing axes.
Mm-hmm.
All really good stuff. We've got command traits now that make sense for the Fire Slayers. Probably the one that I'm going to be using the most is Iron of the Guardian. I'm going to reduce the rend characteristic of all attacks made against the general by 1 to a minimum of 0 rend.
Nope.
I love it.
Lame.
I love it. Same thing moving over to the artifacts. Pretty solid artifacts across the board. There's nothing like too crazy.
There's that good oldie in there, though. That good Ash Plume Sigil.
Yep, and that's one of the automatic ones. So that's probably the one that I think I'll use this more often than anything else, because the Fire Slayers don't really have a whole lot of help with magic. Again, I can ally some mages in now, but the Ash Plume Sigil is once per battle, the bearer can automatically unbind 1 spell cast by an enemy wizard within 18. No roll, no nothing. You're within 18, that spell didn't work.
I think that's huge.
Go away.
It doesn't just say you can unbind 1 spell, it just says you automatically unbind.
Yeah.
So anything in these games of chance that is automatic is kind of a big deal for me.
Definitely.
Fire Slayers, I love them. I feel like I need to get the studio to get a bunch more for me because I want to play them more. They did add a couple new War Scroll battalions for them. Not worth going too in-depth on these guys, but it does add some pretty nice little benefits.
For sure.
Next, we move over to the Seraphon. Some really kind of cool stuff here for their battle traits. Let's start off with Masters of Order, and this is for Slan Wizards. They can attempt to unbind any spells that are cast anywhere on the battlefield, rather than only within 18 inches of themselves.
That's super cool.
That's really awkward.
Yeah, that's some nice magical defense. Also, if they successfully cast on doubles, any doubles, they get to add, I think it's 6-inch range to the spell.
Mm-hmm. Yep, boosting you up to 24-inch range for any of your, damage spells or buff spells.
Now, here's the other big one that for them is Lords of Space and Time. Once per turn in your hero phase, you can pick one of your Seraphon units anywhere on the battlefield to be transported through space and time. If you do so, roll a dice and for the unit and look at the table here to see what happens. On a roll of 1, the unit cannot move or charge. On a rule of 2 to 5, remove the unit from the battlefield and set it up anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from an enemy unit. That cancels their movement. On a roll of 6, you set them up 9 away. Or sorry, you set them up more than 9 away, except for they're still allowed to move in the next movement phase.
That's awesome because this happens in the hero phase.
Yep.
So you go 9 away, you move up to your opponent, making that charge even easier.
There's dinosaurs everywhere.
Yeah, gotta love teleporting dinosaurs.
I say clever girl every time I play them. I've kind of wanted to play Seraphon too, and this might push me to the point that I might do it.
And I like what they've really done with the command traits here. Instead of just being 6, they actually have 9. But depending on the whatever type of Seraphon the hero himself is, he can take different ones. So there's actually a D3 chart for Slan, a D3 chart for Saurus, and a D3 chart for Skanks. Which is I like that a lot. I mean, you have a bonus to 3 additional than everybody else, but it does give some more flavor to depending on what kind of lizard it is.
Cool stuff. Same thing, they've got their 6 artifacts. Anything sticking out for you guys there that's super cool? I mean, I looked at them, they're all cool, but I don't think there's anything really that...
There's a couple of repeats. Like you find them here and there, like with the major Grand Alliance ones, like pick 1 melee weapon the bearer can use, increase the rend characteristic by 1. So that's... Which
I like the fact that, I'm playing Seraphon and I can still take an Obsidian Blade.
Yep. And like the Light of Dracothian? I've never been able to pronounce these ones.
Dracothian. Sure.
Yep.
Let's go with that.
It's the same as the Fire Slayer one, just 1 automatic unbind.
Within 18.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. And the same as the Fire Slayers, they've added a couple new War Scroll battalions in for them.
Yep.
Just to kind of bring them to the same level, the stuff that was being released after the first General's Handbook. Wanderers have got their own rules.
Super cool.
So, what else, guys, out there?
They've got some good rules.
It's a pretty fancy army. So we have the Realm Wanderers. This is probably my favorite of their 2 battle traits. Or sorry, they got 3. They've got the Divine Hunter, so it's reroll Battleshock tests across the board still.
Same thing.
Realm Wanderers. At the start of any of your movement phases, any Wanderer unit from your army that's within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield can leave to travel along a hidden pathway. Declare that this is what the unit's going to do, then remove it from the battlefield. You must then set the unit up anywhere along the edge by which it left, with all models wholly within 6 of the battlefield, more than 9 away from the enemy. That's their move for the movement phase.
I feel this is going to be potentially really good.
Such
for sure.
a mobility thing to do. That is crazy.
Just by being on your back. I mean, you do have to be on the back lines, but if you need some support on your left flank and you got some guys on the right, well...
no, it's going to be on the same edge.
Yeah, but they're on your back edge, right? If you can push back to your edge, you can pop over.
So you're saying, in your deployment zone, if your deployment zone belongs to go from that end of it to this end of it.
But I mean, yeah.
Here's an idea too: is when you're deploying, if you want to know where your opponent's going to put their stuff, you're not sure if they're going to be heavy on one flank or the other. Put your guys in the corners.
Yep.
Because then they just go, okay,
I pop them over here if I need to.
Or you just go all the way up to their deployment end and you just have fun.
Because not only that, in one turn you can leave that way and go to that corner. And the next turn you can go across your opponent's back table edge in theory.
Yep. Very nice. The other ability they get is Melt Away. A friendly Wanderer unit that retreats can shoot in the shooting phase of the same turn.
Super cool. Obviously very fluffy for the Wanderers. They don't want to be in combat. They just want to shoot you. So being able to fall back and then still be able to shoot is definitely awesome for them.
Command traits. Again, they got their 6 command traits. Anything really here for you guys? What's your number 1 pick?
Eagle-eyed. Add 10 inches to the range of any missile weapon used by the general.
Yep.
Well, they're already shooting like 20 inches or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not only that, if your general doesn't have a missile weapon, he gets a hawk.
He gets a bird that he can use as a missile weapon. So
Same as the Nomad Prince.
Yeah.
Now, for their artifacts, probably the hilarious unique one for me that they get is the Forget-Me-Not.
Oh, yes.
Once per battle, at the start of any combat phase, you can pick an enemy hero within 3 inches of the model carrying the Forget-Me-Not. That hero may not pile in attack or use abilities in the combat phase.
That's fantastic. You could totally use that so well, just by surrounding your enemies. You know, big, beefy character that's about to crush all your guys. Nope, can't attack.
I love the fact it's described as a this chain of delicate florets. You're literally just putting a ring of like, here's the daisy crown on you.
Oh, thanks.
Go.
Oh, I'm so pretty. I can't attack or do anything this turn.
What's that, Scarbrand? Here you go. I'm a pretty bloodthirster.
I love it. There's some really cool stuff that they're adding into this. So I'm trying my best not to decide what army I want to build next, but I want to buy another Age of Sigmar army.
All of them.
I know.
Yeah, after this,
there you go.
Now we're going back to the generic chaos.
And this one we're going to go kind of talk about in full, because it's something you guys are familiar with in the past. And so, unpredictable destruction has changed. We are familiar with the way it used to work, but now you're going to roll a dice when you pick a chaos unit from your army to attack in the combat phase if it's within 12 of your general or 3 inches of another hero from your army. On a roll of 6, you add 1 to the hit rolls. So that changes slightly from the ranges before. Other than that, I think it's the same ability.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, how about the command traits? They did change some of them. Which ones did they change?
The 2 command traits they did change. The first one is the Great Destroyer. Obviously, it was affecting the unpredictable destruction for the last time, where it was you can do it on a 5 or a 6 for everybody. This time, it's add 1 to unpredictable destruction dice rolls for units that are within 12 inches of the general. So it's only the general that's making them better in combat now. It's none of the extra heroes that are running around.
Yeah.
So, pretty good. And I think that was the only one that changed, right?
There was 2 more. Lord of War is...
Lord of War requires a roll now, I think.
Yeah,
Before,
it's
I think it was
on 3
automatic.
plus now. And... yeah, I think that was just those 2.
Now, the artifacts, again, we got the same 6 artifacts, but they did change them ever so slightly. The demon weapon, they have simplified a whole ton. There's no more
so much
roll of
easier.
7 or more. It's just you pick one melee weapon that the model can use. Wound rolls of 6 or more for the weapon inflict a mortal wound in addition to any damage they would normally inflict.
Yep.
There you
Good.
go.
It's just easy.
It is
like
what it
that.
is. Yep. Far easier than what it used to be. And they actually changed my favorite one, or at least the one I use the most often, which was the one that allowed you to essentially do Inspiring Presence twice. Now you actually have to roll a die to use a second command ability, and it only happens on a 5-up.
Yeah, that's the Crown
Yeah.
Conquest, right?
Yeah, the 6th one there.
Unfortunate, but I hope to not be having to use the generic chaos that much anymore. But that's the one
Well,
benefit.
you used it for your Ratman all the time,
Of
right?
course.
All right, flip the page here. We're going to go on to the Beret Herd. So this is your Beastman stuff. You get the ambush rule, so it's letting you set your units up to one side, hiding an ambush. And in your first movement phase, you set up all the ambushing units wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield, more than 9 away from the enemy. That's your move for the movement phase.
For sure. That's
Super cool ability.
love it. Bringing back Beastman Ambush.
Yep.
Was a thing that was missing.
And then the other one is that you can set up a herdstone. When you pick your general after setup is complete, you can put a herdstone within 6 inches of them. You're using a suitable scenery model up to 4 inches across to represent it, and set up on any area of open ground.
And they essentially treat the Herdstone as it has multiple terrain rules, like from the terrain rules, so it's Damned, Arcane, and Inspiring.
And that's to any friendly Bray Herd units.
Within 3.
Yeah. And all other units treat a herdstone, and any open ground within 3 of the herdstone is having the deadly special roll.
So pretty cool.
I don't know if I'd use it a whole ton, but I haven't used a lot of the Brayherd stuff anyways.
The thing is there's
free.
there's no reason to not take it because it's free. You don't have to pay for it, so you might as well use it if you got it.
Command traits, again, they get their 6 command traits. What's the favorite here, guys?
To be honest, this is probably the one I read the least of.
Bestial Cunning. So normally the way it works, if you do the ambush, then you have to show up in the first turn.
Right,
Bestial Cunning
yes.
lets you take, I think, half of those units and set them up in the second turn instead.
Very cool. Having the waves of beastmen come in.
And the other one here is we have their artifacts. I don't know, my favorite probably would be the Trumpet. You add 1 to hit rolls for any friendly Brayherds units within 18 if they use the ambush battle trait to arrive on the battlefield in the same turn.
Oh yeah, giving you a buff for your ambush, definitely a good thing.
I like the rune of the Insatiable Beast, or Insatiable Beast, and you add 2 to your charge rolls for this model. In addition, you can re-roll hit rolls of 1 for this model. So it kind of makes them a bit better in like getting to combat and staying in combat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Moving over now to Slaanesh. When you have your Slaanesh army, you get to pick for their battle trait one of the 3 hosts. Again, I want to get super in depth with each one here, but Kyle, what was your favorite?
See, I think I was a little different than yours. I really liked the Pretenders. The Pretenders are going to be just so great. It's if you decide to randomly generate this trait roll again for the second trait.
The general gets 2 command traits.
Yes, 2 command traits instead of 1. In addition, you can re-roll hit rolls of 1 for units that have 10 or more models when they attack in the shooting or combat phase.
For an army that hits on 3s normally, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, that is going to hurt with Demon
Big
X.
deal.
The Seekers host speeds you up a little bit, and the Invaders allow you to have up to 3 generals.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
There's some really cool stuff going on. What about command traits here? I think you had one picked out that you really were thinking you were going to use.
Well, just because it is so easy to make fun of. You're so vain, we're supremely vain.
You can't be a video without Kyle singing.
I have to sing at some point.
So supremely vain, you can add 1 to hit rolls, casting rolls, and unbinding rolls for the general if there's at least 10 friendly Slaanesh models within 6 when the roll is made.
I bet you think this command trait is about you, don't you? Don't you?
Wow. We went there.
You're welcome.
We had to go there. Over to the Slaanesh artifacts. 6 artifacts. I know I keep saying it for everybody gets 6 of everything.
I'm still going to say it every time, though.
I know, I can't help it. That's how I do things. The icon of infinite excess. Probably the most interesting of the bunch. You can use this artifact once per battle at the start of any combat phase. When you do, for the rest of that combat phase, add 1 to the hit rolls of all units within 8 inches of this model, friend or foe.
Getting that alpha strike turn make you hit that much harder.
Yep.
I mean, your enemies hit harder too, but who cares because you're going to kill them.
For sure. For sure. You're demons. You don't care.
Exactly.
I see this working really well, especially with Seekers, just running up there, smashing him like turn 1. If they have nobody left to swing, you're laughing at them.
Now you do, it is for models within 8, right? So you got to make sure your Lord's up there, but with how fast these armies can be, I mean, you're not going to have an issue with it.
It's Slaanesh, that's their jam.
Yep.
Moving over to these Slaves of Darkness.
They actually have pretty cool things here. Bringing the Marks of Chaos back, essentially.
Yeah.
With the Aura of Chaos power. So when you choose your champion, you get to choose one of your devotions to your gods, Khorne, Slaanesh, Nurgle, Siege, Nomarch. And for each of them, they give you an ability for you or a unit within 6 inches of 1 or more Slaves of Darkness heroes can use the aura of the power of the Chaos God that you give them.
Right, so as long as you have the same mark, you're able to pass off the power. Khorne's allowing you to reroll hit rolls of 1 in the combat phase. Slaanesh reroll dice rolls of 1 make your runner charge. Nurgle's reroll wound rolls of 1. Tzeentch is reroll save rolls of 1. And Nomarch is you're adding 1 to the bravery of the unit.
So that's pretty cool.
Pretty lore appropriate, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing they've added in is the Eye of the Gods.
Bringing it back.
So if a Chaos Hero in Slaves of Darkness army, with the exception of any Demon Princes, makes an attack in combat phase that slays 1 or more enemy heroes or monsters, you get to make a roll on the table. And it's pretty well what you'd be used to for any other Chaos armies in any of the different systems. There's the chance to turn into a Spawn, there's the chance to turn into a Demon Prince. And then otherwise it's just kind of buffs to your character.
What I liked about this part here is they actually specifically reference in pitch battles, it does not cost reinforcement points to have your character turn into a spawn or a demon prince.
Right, because you are technically setting up a new model.
Yeah. That's super cool, because I don't think they had that in the last one, and if you did it, you didn't, you know, if you rolled the 12 for Dark Apotheosis, and oh, I got a demon, oh wait, I gotta pay for it, I don't have the point.
Yeah. As far as command traits here, it's just the 6 that are generic to Slaves of Darkness. They don't give you a special one for each of the different Chaos Gods. I think it could have been cool, but I understand why they didn't do it. Because it would have, I think, been a little bit much.
If they would have had to do that with the same thing they did over here with 5, even if they did the D3 like they did with the Lizard.
Yeah, they did 3, it's still 15 command traits. It makes sense. I would have liked if they had done that otherwise. But, anything here, guys, that you would use over the other ones?
For traits?
I'm thinking probably, just because it would be fluffy, it would be Eternal Vendetta.
Yeah. Which is your, I'm here to kill order.
Yeah.
Yep.
And order is what I'm going to kill kind of one. So you're rerolling failed wound rolls for attacks made by the general in the combat phase against targets with the order keyword.
So that could be really useful, especially against like the Fire Slayers, where they have that reduce your wound to hit me now.
Yep. We have the different artifacts here. Out of the bunch we talked about when we did our original read-through, the Mark of the All-Favored. So in each of your hero phases, you can pick which Mark of Chaos the model has instead of deciding before the battle begins.
Again, super cool, giving you the option of picking and choosing when you need things and when you need others.
Right. Now, I mean, it still has to correspond to the mark that the unit has close by, but it allows you to take some different units with different marks and still affect them all throughout the battle when it makes the most sense to.
Definitely. Love anything that gives you that little bit of play in there.
Hey. Over to Skaven Clan Pestilence.
Oh, we're in your territory now.
Yeah, rats.
Now, for battle traits, they get their strength in numbers that I think the Skaven... it was a Dwarf Scroll Battalion you had to take to get this?
I'm pretty sure that's what it was in order to... it made... Because, for example, you get... for every 10 models, you get to add 1 to your Bravery. Well, now, for every 10 models, they get to add 2. Because they're rats and they like other friends.
Yeah, so it does help you. It does encourage you to bring the big hordes of models. There are some of the Great Plagues. So the way it works, there are 6 different Great Plagues that you get to pick from. You can pick each one of them once, and they pop up when a Pestilence Priest successfully prays, and the dice roll for the prayer was a 6 before any modifiers were applied. So if you can spike a 6 for a prayer, you get one of these different
6
plagues.
different plagues or curses. There's... I think the one I like is the Bubonic Blight Plague. The nearest enemy unit within 13 of the priest is infected by the Bubonic Blight Plague. You just like the name, don't you?
It's hilarious. I haven't heard you say it before.
The unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. If the unit is destroyed by the wounds that were inflicted, pick another enemy unit within 6 inches of the last model to be removed. This unit now suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the second unit is wiped out, the Bubonic Blight Plague inflicts D3 mortal wounds to another. So, again, it increases. It goes on and on.
It can jump. I mean, chances are it's not going to jump you on the first. But it might, in a hilarious fashion.
If you're late game, if everything's taken significant casualties, there's a possibility it just keeps going.
Or there's a couple of heroes close by that are already kind of wounded.
What was the name of the plague again?
Bubonic Blight Plague.
Now, what about the command traits, Cullen? Is there one that you think you'd be wanting to run for your Skaven Pestilence? I know you got a little bit of the Pestilence models, not that many of them yet.
Yeah, I got a fair number, but not. I don't know if I'd have the ability to create a full Pestilence army. Depending on exactly how you like it, I do like the Master of Rot or Ruin, which if your general's a priest, which most likely will be, he's going to be able to re-roll the dice to see if he successfully prays, which could then be very beneficial with the Echoes of the Great Plague, meaning that you have a much better chance of getting your Bubonic Blight Plague off.
Now, artifacts, the one that we all had talked about and we were all a big fan of, was Blistravis, the Living Cyst. This sentient pustule migrates from host to host, whispering its mad ravings to drive its bearer into a fevered frenzy. So you get to reroll hit rolls of 1 for the bearer and add 2 inches to the move characteristic. Not bad for assist. And then starting from the second battle round, if there's any friendly pestilence heroes within 12 of the bear at the start of each battle round, then you must transfer this artifact to one of them.
Love it.
So it's this little sis that kind of just jumps around and buffs you a little bit.
Love it. And
absolutely hilarious.
Again, there might be something in here that might be a little bit more powerful, but that's just hilarious.
Over to Clan Skyer. They have the same strength and numbers battle trait, but they also have the Warpstone Sparks. So at the start of the battle, before either army setup, you roll a d3 and add 3. That's the number of sparks that you get. Each spark can be used once per battle, either to reroll a casting roll or unbinding roll for a Skyer Wizard from your army, to reroll a failed hit or wound roll for an attack made by a Skyer Hero from your army, or to double the damage characteristic of a weapon used by a Skyer model from your army.
Now that is super cool. The one stipulation of these are after you use the spark, you have to then roll a die. And on a 1, the unit then suffers d6 mortal wounds. So, I mean, it's the risk versus reward of the Skaven. Always got to have that randomness that you could always possibly kill yourself. But the ability to potentially double the amount of damage that the Warp Lightning Cannon does seems awesome.
Yeah.
Now, does it get an actual damage characteristic on it, or is it just mortal wounds?
Oh, did you think it doesn't work for mortal wounds?
I don't know.
Now,
because it's not a damage characteristic, so I don't think so.
Okay, well, I mean, I believe the Doom Wheel then has one that does D3 or D6 at least, I'm pretty sure. So there's definitely still some Skyer stuff that can kick out some fairly decent damage, and to be able to double that, even, because I believe it's just for the attack, correct? So if you had something...
It's double the damage characteristic of a weapon used... for one successful attack. It's only one of the attacks. So if it's multiple, you don't get to go too crazy with it. But it makes sense for a rule like that. It's automatic that you get to do it.
And there's plenty of shooting things that I think you could use to definitely leverage a good advantage off that.
On to the command traits. Out of the 6, I think our favorite of the bunch was the Cunning Creature.
Yeah.
Kyle, you want to take it away for Cunning Creature? What do you get to do?
When the general is selected to pile in an attack in the combat phase, they can withdraw instead. Move the general up to 8 inches so that they end up at least 3 inches away from any enemy models.
Very awesome. Being able to, maybe a way to keep your general around is always a big deal because your generals are never super strong. So, always like the Skaven do, they like to lead from the back and pushing their way out of combat and be like, go guys, you stand in front of me.
Let me get out of your way so you can swing, minions.
Of course, of course.
Artifacts here, they get their 6 artifacts. Pick of the bunch was the Brass Orb, just because of the zaniness of it. I don't think this is the most useful out of them, but it's probably the funniest and the most kind of Skaven feeling one out of them all.
Definitely, and I think it's one of those that if you're able to get multiple artifacts, you might want to squeak one of these in here for the... You're laughing at squeaks, aren't you?
Yep.
That, you can... This might work, because the way it works is it's a once per battle in the shooting phase. You use it, and it's 6-inch range. Roll a die, and on a 6 or more, the closest enemy model within 6 is slain. Dead. Whether it's Archeon, whether it's one guy, whether it's a hero, or a war machine.
Just some zombie.
Yep. That is what it is. Now, again, probably not likely. It's a 1 in 6 chance it actually happens. But if I'm playing against, say, the Beastcar Raiders... Oh, look, a big thunder tusk. Whoa, or... Boop. Oh, where'd he go? I don't know. He's gone. He's dead.
Feels like one of those traps from, like, the Ghostbusters right now.
Right? Immediately finished off. As we move over to the next big old allegiance, we have Death. So this is one of the original major allegiances. They have changed Deathless Minions a little bit. So the way Deathless Minions is working now is we're going to roll a dice for each wound or mortal wound inflicted on a friendly death unit within 6 of the general or another death hero.
Yeah.
And then 6 you get to negate. I think the old range is what, 10 inches?
10 inches, yeah.
So they definitely have kind of reined that in a little bit. Okay, so Death seemed super weak, super lame.
Yep.
But they've given you some other good bonuses in other areas. So
yeah.
I don't mind the fact that they've brought this one down a little bit because they've helped balance out some of the other stuff.
I agree.
As we jump over to the command traits, the 6 regular command traits are still there, but which ones did they change, Kyle?
So the first one they've changed is obviously Ruler of the Night. And this was like a staple for pretty much, I'd say, most of the undead players. They were to go, okay, Instead of having a 6-up Deathless minion, I'm going to do it on a 5-up now.
Yep,
of course.
And that was, I think it was around everybody, wasn't it? Or was it just around your general?
I think it was, I can't remember. It might have been for everybody.
I think it was probably with everybody, as long as they were in the bubble for it. But now it's friendly death units within 12 of the general get this ability, get the ability to regenerate. So it gives you just a wider bubble for that.
So yeah, cutting out your auto choice that I think it was for a lot of different people who are playing a death army.
Yeah.
What else do we have for changes for command traits?
Red Fury changed as well. So instead of having to roll under the amount of hits that you've done, it's now just a 5+ to activate it.
Right. So I mean, the example I can think of is I was playing against a guy named Raffi who brought in his death army, and he had his Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon with that. And he caused 17 wounds pretty easily. And then he had to roll under 17 on a d6 to be able to swing again. No more of that. Now it's on a 5-up. Definitely is going to change the builds for death. It eliminates some of their most powerful builds, but it's not like an auto choice anymore.
And I think that's what they try to do with a lot of these things.
Yeah. It's going to feel like there's no command trait that's just auto take anymore. A lot of this is, it will really depend on how you build your army. Like Deathless,
It's encouraging you to build a kind of different, diverse list, which
yeah,
I appreciate it. I like that. For the artifacts of death, which ones did change there?
the biggest one was Ring of Immortality. So instead of having your guy like the old Vlad von Karst just pop back up once he's dead, you now have to roll a 3-up for him to come back with die 3 wounds. So it's not guaranteed that they're going to be coming back, which is great for people who had like a zombie dragon sitting there going, "Hi, you killed me, now I'm back," for sure.
Right.
I mean, they did only make it on a 3+, so that's still likely. 2/3 of the time it's coming back, but again, it gives you that randomness that it also could not work.
Yeah.
I appreciate the changes. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
They bring death in line with a lot of the other factions there. Next we have the Flesh Eater Courts, which was, I think, the last of the different... Oh, no, there's Iron Jaws, too, that we had to talk about.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Flesh Eater Courts is one of the ones that came out pre the first General's Handbook. So they have finally given them some battle traits, and you can build a unique kind of different list here. They have the Deathless Courtiers again, which is basically your exact same as Deathless Minions.
Yeah, except it just targets just Flesh Eater Courts in this case. Because, again, encouraging you to take...
Flesh Eater Courts. You can add allied stuff in, but there's a reason to.
Yeah, it won't benefit from this save.
Now, 2 other rules that they get is Feeding Frenzy. So you roll a dice if attacks made by a Flesh Eater Courts unit in the combat phase results in enemy units being slain. On a 6 or more, the unit can pile in and attack a second time. Any additional attacks made by the unit will not allow it to attack again, even if they result in a new enemy unit being slain. So if you kill off a unit, there's a 1 in 6 chance you might pile in and do some more stuff. I don't think I'm going to build an army based around trying to get that.
Definitely
But it's a cool ability.
Oh, yeah.
If you're close to stuff.
Yeah, it has a lot of damage potential, but again, only happening 1/6 of the time.
And then you also get to pick a delusion. So with the Flesh Eater Courts, let's read the actual little fluff burp here. The warriors that make up a Flesh Eater Court believe themselves noble soldiers serving a glorious king. So before you select your general's command trait, you pick one of the following delusions for the army to have. And yeah, so out of the D6 here.
The nice thing about these is you don't need your general to be alive for this. It stays even if your general's gone.
Correct, yeah.
So it's kind of, they're pretty useful, kind of like command traits, but affect most of the army. So you don't have to worry about your general biting it and going, well, there goes that bonus. It's still going to keep going, which is going to give them a nice boost.
Yeah.
We look at the Crusading Army, so you can re-roll dice rolls of 1, making a runner charge roll for friendly Flesh Eater Courts units. Huge for a close combat army.
Yep.
One of the other ones here, we got the Grand Tournament. You can re-roll hit rolls of 1s for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Courts heroes other than your general. Defenders of the Realm, re-roll save rolls of 1 for friendly Flesh Eater Courts that have at least half their models in their own territory. A couple cool different ones. Over to the command traits here. What are we thinking for our Flesh Eater Court general? What would we want him to have?
Completely delusional?
Completely delusional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again allows you, as long as your general's alive, you can actually change your delusion. So again, allowing you to pick and choose when you need what and when you need it in that turn, because there's one that gives you additional to wound against monsters, or again, like Josh mentioned, the one that gives you rerolling once to hit for things made against heroes. Depending on what you're attacking this turn, you can kind of use that to help you, use it at the right time.
Yeah, versatile army is a good one. We do have some different artifacts here. There's good options. I think the Blood River Chalice was the one that we were looking at.
I think so.
It's somewhat situational, but it allows you once per battle to use it, and when you do, the model heals D6 wounds.
Which will be good for your Abhorrent? Was that
the
name? The guy in the Terrorgeist.
Yeah, the Ghoul King on the Terrorgeist.
Yeah.
Is.
Yep, though it will really help your heroes that have to get up there, get in combat, are probably going to die by the end of the game, but this will make them stick around, fight maybe one more turn.
Well, he's already super hard to kill anyways.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or bring him back up to that top bracket of just like with like the screams for the Terrorgeist,
yes.
or like his wounds.
That's a good point.
Going, oh well, now he's kind of weak. Nope, go munch on something.
Jumping over to the second to last one here for the Death Armies, we got the Night Haunt. So these are the ghosts.
Whoa, spooky.
Now they have their Deathless Spirits, which is the same as Deathless Minions, but it only affects Night Haunt. And they also get the Ethereal Rulers. So instead of setting up a Night Haunt unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it's in the Underworld. And if you do so, you can roll on the table below for the unit at the start of any of your movement phases, as long as there is one friendly Wraith or Banshee somewhere in the battlefield. And on a 3-up, you get to set the unit up 9 inches away from any enemy units.
Essentially putting them into a reserve and being able to put them on the board. Mm-hmm. Now, if you roll a 1 or 2, they do fail, but you can still roll for it next turn. So that's fairly handy. It's not like they die or anything like that. They're ghosts. They're just slow.
Yeah, they're just not showing up yet. Now they do allow you to include black coaches in this. So the other battle trait rather. Normally black coaches are getting boosts depending if there's Death Wizards close by. They said now you're rolling dice for each Karen Wraith or Tomb Banshee within 12 of the black coach.
Which makes sense because if you're going to be playing a complete Night Haunt army, you're not going to have any battle wizards to help, Death Wizards to help you out there. Mm-hmm. So it's going to give them the ability to actually use that power
without having to ally them in.
Yeah.
And then for command traits here, Luke and I were talking the other day because he's considering building a Night Haunt list. His command trait of choice was the Ruler of the Spirit Hosts. So as long as the general is alive, you can reroll the dice when attempting to call a unit from the underworld to the battlefield.
3-up rerollable that they come on.
Yeah, so it does help you get your models in there.
Morgul's.
But
yeah. For their artifacts, there's nothing too crazy special here. I would probably be looking at the Pendant of the Fell Wind. So I'm adding 3 inches to the move characteristic of any friendly Night Haunt units within 6 of the model at the start of the movement phase. So for your core of ghosts that you're going to start on the board, it's just moving stuff up.
Yep.
Quicker.
Letting them get up there.
You really can get in the face of your enemy and do some damage early on, which is nice.
I really liked the Midnight Tome because it gives one of your heroes basically becomes a wizard, and they know Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield. And that's going to be really useful since they're all ethereal.
That's
and
true.
You just go, oh hey, suddenly you now have a 3+ save, and Ren doesn't affect you.
Oh yeah, that's your cheesy way to get your Mongol to that 2-up save.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what it needs.
What a jerk! Why would you think of that? A nice guy like me wouldn't come up with something like that.
Yeah, no, Josh, why did you ever do something like that?
Oh wait, Beast Claws.
No, I've done that to people with death before. With the Morgul. Sorry, David White. Multiple times. Probably Ben. I assume Cullen. I assume I've done that to you before.
You've Morguled me before.
Alright, next we got Soulblight, which is your vampires here. So, they've got Deathless Thralls, which is your same Deathless ability as the rest of them, affecting your Soulblight stuff. Then we've got Bloodlines. So, kind of a cool throwback to the different Bloodlines from Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
So, we have 4 to pick from here. Give you an example, Dragon Warriors. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for models that have the Dragon Warriors bloodline if they charge in the same turn.
Very cool for your Blood Knights.
Mm-hmm. I think my favorite of the bunch was Swift Death. You're adding 2 to the move characteristic of all models that have the Swift Death bloodline. In addition, they can always move as if they could fly.
That's super nice.
That's gonna hurt.
For sure. Lords
of Night can be pretty fun too. Like you don't have to have a a hero within 6 inches of any of your Soul Blight units, they always have the Deathless Minions. It's still on a 6, but it's still better than nothing. And especially if we're going to be running not as many heroes inside a Soul Blight army.
Yeah.
You'll at least be able to hopefully have your guys survive a bit longer.
To use that save without having to rely on your heroes or your general. And very nice.
On to some command traits. Typical vampire stuff here. Again, if you want to make your general super scary, I'd say go Misform.
Yep.
Because you can have the general retreat. They move as if they can fly, and they can still charge in the same turn.
I love how fluffy that is. He turns into mist, pops over there, and he gets
and then just charges you again.
That's so cool. I love that.
So I mean, like if you went for Dragon Warriors Bloodline, and you've got your guy on Zombie Dragon, super duper scary. They do have some cool artifacts. I am a fan of the Saccharine, I don't know how to say it right. Goblet, the cup. The way this one works is you can use this artifact at the start of any combat phase. If you do, you can add 1 to hit and wound rolls for the model. However, if this model fails to inflict any wounds in the combat phase when it uses the goblet, then this model suffers D3 mortal wounds at the end of the combat phase. Guess what? Again, my Zombie Dragon, Dragon Warrior, he's going to do some damage, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Especially if you give him +1 to hit, +1 to wound.
This is arguably the Allegiance ability, aside from for you people, if the Bretonnian thing kind of works out, this is the one I'm most excited for, because I started playing Vampires back in, I want to say it was like 4th or 5th edition.
Wow.
Yep.
Back when they had like the old Magic, I think it was 5th then.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so like the Bloodlines, I've been there since they.
Well, because I played in
so much fun.
I played Vampires, Vampire Counts in 6th edition, and I think that was the last edition that they actually had their different bloodlines.
Yeah.
So, super cool for me. Really nice throwback. Again, I hopefully won't build a vampire army soon, but I don't want to.
And again, like you could have 2 Soul Blight armies go up against each other. One of them's like going to be Dragon Warriors, the other could be Swift Death. It's going to feel
super
different.
Cool.
Now, on to destruction here. I'm pretty sure Kyle's note just says, let Josh talk and yell.
and for us to, go for it.
To just kind of be able to sit back and chillax.
I believe it is that we get to, we're drinking your tears or laughing at your tears?
Laugh and drink your tears in this one.
You know what? The changes I agree with, but there are some major changes here. First of all, Rampaging Destroyers, which was the ability that, it was like one of the best things in the game. My fast armies were even faster. They have substantially changed this, guys. So the way it works now is I'm going to roll a dice in the hero phase for my general and each destruction hero in my army. I add 2 to the roll for the general. So on a roll of 6, I pick a friendly destruction unit within 6 of the general or hero being rolled for. The unit can immediately move 6 inches if it's more than 12 away from the enemy. It can immediately pile in if it's within 3 inches of the enemy, or it can immediately declare charge in any other circumstances. It cannot run when it makes the move, but it can move, charge, or pile in again later in the same turn. Less random. It's going to happen a lot less likely. They've really toned that ability down, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah. It really needed to be.
It was way too good here. So that's what Rampaging Destroyers looks like now. It's not a one big giant fast army anymore.
Yeah, that was always brutal. I'm gonna move up. Oh no, I'm gonna move again. Now I'm gonna charge again.
Joke's on you guys though. I found Beast Claws.
No. The only the part with Rampaging Destroyers always kind of bothered me was the fact I usually play really fast army, elves, Bretonnians, that kind of stuff, and
the ogres were natural born sprinters.
That and Iron Jaws, they're
very dangerous over short
but
distance.
Across the table in one turn.
It's insane.
What? I'm on a horse. How are you faster?
In 2 turns, we're getting their move plus 2d6.
Yeah.
Not okay.
Nope.
Over to the command traits here. We have the changes. Let's see if I can spot them. Bellowing Tyrant's different for sure. And I think that was the only one that did change, was Bellowing Tyrant. Because this was one of the ones I used all the time. So now Bellowing Tyrant, it used to be a random d6 roll, and you added 1 to hit rolls for a unit within that range. That you had to pick still. Iron Guts. But now you pick a friendly destruction unit within 6 inches of the general in the hero phase, and until your next hero phase, you add 1 to charge and run rolls for the unit, and use the general's bravery characteristic for the unit instead of its own. Definitely super toned down. This does affect armies. It affects my ogres to a certain degree because I like to hit more consistently. I think the big change is for Quirk's Spider Riders. This is the one he took to make it easier for his mortal wounds with the spiders.
Yup.
not happening anymore. Kyle, what else did you find? Was there another one that changed?
Yeah, the other one that changed was Wild Fury. So this one, it just add 1 to the general's hit rolls if they have suffered any wounds. And in the old one, it was add 1 to general's hit and wound rolls if they have been reduced to less than half their starting number of wounds. So that last part's been kind of removed.
Okay.
Handy dandy.
Yeah.
Over to the artifacts here. The differences we see, again, I believe... Did we have the Bellowing Blade before?
We did. A lot of it was just seems to have just had the name changed, like the Rock Eye, the Battered Talisman, Bellowing Blade. I think a lot of them were just different names.
Yeah, I mean, like the Talisman, I think the old one was a 4 up to ignore mortal wounds, and now it's a 5 up to ignore mortal wounds.
Yeah.
If we look at, okay, here's the one that everybody's waiting for, though, the one that makes a big difference, Battle Brew. Battle Brew is now, it's the same as before, but it's once per game. Which, yeah. I mean, I brought it all the time because it was the obvious choice to bring. Now I'm probably going to change to using some different stuff, but even though that once per game is still kind of nice to get the +1 to hit, +1 to wound.
Definitely.
Only once per game. That needed to happen. That was the most overpowered artifact in the game, I think.
What's really scary about this for your destruction heroes now is if you take the 2 swigs, instead of suffering 1 mortal wound, you suffer D6 mortal wounds.
At the end of the turn in which they drink the brew, yeah.
Yeah, way scarier for yourself at that point, even.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that has the potential to either kill somebody who's not mounted, or if your guy's already wounded, you're really rolling the dice on that.
Yeah.
And the last allegiance here, we're going to jump over to some Iron Jaws. So Iron Jaws finally get their own stuff. Kind of nice for quirk. I'll admit that I haven't really played with or against the Iron Jaws a whole lot. But let's take a look at what we got. Mighty Destroyers. You're going to roll dice in your hero phase for your general, and each Iron Jaws hero in the army. It's just the Rampaging Destroyers. It's the exact same as that.
Okay. So they get that as well as they get Smashing and Bashing.
So Smashing and Bashing, if the attacks made by an Iron Jaws unit in the combat phase result in an enemy unit being completely destroyed, the closest friendly Iron Jaws unit that is not yet fought in the combat phase compiling an attack instead of waiting to make its attacks normally later in the phase.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Pretty good, because it's a pretty devastating army, especially when you get to charge in like that. Eager for battle, you get to add 1 to the result of any charge rolls made for the unit. So just +1 to charge.
Simple but good.
Simple but effective.
Yeah, that'll come up. There'll be those times that really comes in clutch for those charges that you're 1 inch away or just failing by an inch. You don't fail them anymore.
On to looking at some of the different command traits here. Prophet of the Wa. So if your general has the Wa or Mighty Wa ability, you can re-roll the dice to see if the relevant units can make an extra attack. If the general doesn't have the abilities, then they get to use the Wa command ability from the Orc Megaboss War Scroll. So that's another one of those clutch ones. I mean, the damage capability of these guys is crazy.
Yep.
And it only really gets worse when you throw that on there. Their artifacts, again, I don't know the army super well to look at what the best option to take. I think the simple Destroyer artifact, so you pick one melee weapon that the model can use and increase the damage characteristic by 1. You get some scary high damage guys out there with a bajillion attacks. That opens up the potential for a lot more damage. Flipping over, looking, we also have, again, more War Scroll battalions, and that finishes off the book. Pretty substantial, hefty book. We're looking at like 161 pages here.
Yeah, and a lot of it being new stuff or significant changes.
Yeah, really solid overall, guys. Give me your first impressions. We haven't played any games with it yet. I mean, obviously, when we start to play more games, we're going to talk about the changes that we see when we do our post games. What do you guys think of the General's Handbook? Kyle, starting with you. Give me your first impression.
My first impression is I feel like I'm reading the first General's Handbook again. I'm getting excited for the game. Like, there's just a lot in here going, okay, well, the first General's Handbook made sure that we can play, and there's a little bit of semblance of balance and fun, and there's some other stuff going on. And this one went, okay, let's build on that. Let's have even more fun. Let's take, like, the Storm of Magic stuff we used to have, the Triumph and Treachery stuff. Let's add some more Legions traits to make the armies actually feel like the armies that you wanted to play. I mean, we spend how many hundreds of hours on our models? You really want them to play differently than, you know, somebody that's close by being like, my high elves should be different from your dark elves, kind of stuff. For sure. So I personally can't wait to tear into this. Like, it's going to be so much fun to play.
There's a ton of good stuff. Cullen.
I'm very happy with the amount of fluff they've now added back into the armies, just like Kyle was saying. there's a bug around my face.
Stop being pestilence, maybe there wouldn't be.
The familiarity that some of the armies have gotten back is super awesome. I'm genuinely happy, and one of the things I really like about the way they're doing it this way is the fact that with these general handbooks, the fact that this one's called 2017 could lead to the fact that there's going to be one next year for 2018, and that they could tweak and change the point costs to help rebalance everything with a simple, quick and easy printing. I think that's super, super cool.
I'm on the same page. I look at it, and I've always, Age of Sigmar I had fun with. I was very critical of it when they started Age of Sigmar because it lacked structure. And I can be kind of back and forth on that, where I want games, I want to be able to do whatever I want to do, but I want there to be structure there in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to tell me the rules, then I'll break them.
Yes.
Not just make them up. So a book like this, and this is part of the MiniWarGaming perspective, there's a ton of different, cool, unique stuff. I'm not going to get bored of this book anytime soon.
No.
I can do some weird, wacky, different scenarios with guests that are coming in. And at least we have a common ground. With me handling the booking emails, if somebody says, hey Josh, I want to come in, we're going to play a game, I want to use the match play stuff, but let's add this or that in, it's a lot easier. So yeah. I love the fact that there's structure there, because to me that means if you go into your local gaming store and you find somebody who wants to play, you don't have to play the most basic game. You can add in some weird stuff, or even if you had the suggestions on, hey, I like to use this, but I like to use that, and know what the other guy's talking about without needing like a full crazy explanation of how they do it as house rules from wherever they're usually playing from.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. They've done a good job. They have rebalanced the armies out. I maintained my interest in Age of Sigmar all throughout, but I'll admit that it diminished to a certain degree with some of the different armies feeling like they got left behind. This, I love it.
Yep.
I'm super excited to sink my teeth into it. Viewers, guys, I really encourage you in the comment section to get in there. Let me know what you guys think of it. We tried something a little bit different for this review. I mean, usually we are playing the game first and then talking about some more specific stuff. I wanted to do more kind of a first impression thing, so hopefully viewers, you guys enjoyed that. Get in the comment section. Let me know what you think overall, both for the General's Handbook and the way we decided to film this. Vault members, make sure you check out the link below, because we're going to jump into playing a game using some of these new rules, seeing what we can figure out. If you're not a Vault member, check out the link below anyways. It'll take you to the game and a free trial, 7-day free trial. This is your first time coming across a MiniWarGaming video. The way it works in the Vault is we have twice as much content, because everything we do, we try to do in pairs. So you get access to quite a few more games, reviews, fun behind-the-scenes stuff, Chris and Janine's painting tips and tricks, all sorts of cool stuff. Thanks for checking the videos out, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Keep being awesome, and as always, happy wargaming.